Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Here to bring in the movie of What If Peter Parker 616 entered Dispatch video game. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Prologue. Into a new reality. Location. Earth 616, Peter Parker's apartment, somewhere in Queens. Things were not looking good for Peter Parker. He had his body back. That should have been the end of it. Otto Octavius, the monster who had stolen his life, his hands, his face, was gone. Trapped in a failing clone body. Finally, permanently, gone. But the damage remained. Peter sat alone in his apartment. The windows were dark. The walls were bare. The few personal effects he'd once kept, photos of Gwen, of Harry, of Uncle Ben, had been packed away months ago, after the last time someone had broken in to check if he was really himself. He wasn't sure when he'd stopped unpacking them. The television flickered in the corner, muted. Jonah Jameson's face filled the screen, his mouth moving in that familiar, furious rhythm. Peter didn't need the sound to know what he was saying. I was right about Spider-Man. I've always been right. The fall, the betrayal had come from every direction. Not gradually, not in whispers. All at once, like a dam breaking. His friends turned on him first. The ones who had sworn they'd always believe in him. The ones who had seen him at his lowest and promised to stay. They hunted him instead, not metaphorically, not asked him to keep his distance. They came for him, with weapons, with teams, with the kind of coordinated precision usually reserved for supervillains. The Fantastic Four, people he had bled beside, people whose children he had saved, threatened him within an inch of his life. Susan Storm, who had cried on his shoulder after losing her brother in another timeline, looked him in the eye and told him to stay away from her family. The Avengers issued a formal statement. Spider-Man was under review. His security clearance was revoked. His emergency access to their systems was terminated. Jessica Drew, after Hawkeye had saved her from the Phoenix Force with a bone arrow, of all things, called him a coward to his face. Told him to stay away from her. From Jerry. From anyone she cared about. Even Julia Carpenter, the woman who held the web of life and destiny, who understood the spider totem better than anyone, publicly stated that Peter no longer deserved to be Spider-Man. That Miles Morales was more qualified. And Miles changed. The arrogance came first, then the entitlement, then the casual cruelty of a man who had never truly known loss. He became everything Peter had once feared becoming, a hero who believed his own publicity, who measured success in endorsement deals and media appearances. He became Tony Stark. And Tony Stark, the actual Tony Stark, finished the job. He took Parker Industries, legally, cleanly, with lawyers and board meetings and a paper trail that made it all look above board. Peter had built that company from nothing. Had poured his soul into it. Tony took it in an afternoon. The breaking point. Peter remembered helping Susan Storm. He remembered sitting with her in the dark, listening to her talk about her children, about the weight of being a mother and a hero and a woman who had lost too much. He had held her hand. He had promised her that things would get better. And then she had turned on him. Just like everyone else. He remembered Jessica Drew. Remembered how she had looked at him after Hawkeye's absurd, impossible save, as if he was the one who had failed her. As if the Phoenix Force incident was somehow his fault. As if he had anything to do with it at all. He remembered standing in the ruins of his life, looking at the faces of people he had loved, and seeing only strangers. The television remote left his hand before he knew he'd thrown it. The screen shattered. Jameson's face dissolved into a cascade of sparks and falling glass. Peter, his voice raw, empty, after everything I've done for this city, this is what I get. He stood in the silence, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. He had never felt so alone. The visitor. Time stopped. Not gradually. Not with warning signs. One moment, the glass from the shattered television was falling in slow, inevitable arcs toward the floor. The next moment, it simply hung there. Suspended. Frozen. Peter blinked. His spider sense, the one thing that had never, ever failed him, was silent. Not screaming. Not warning. Just quiet. The figure that stepped out of the frozen air was made of light. Not harsh light, not the blinding flare of an explosion or the cold glare of a searchlight. Something warmer, something older. Cosmic energy given form, rendered in shades of gold and deep, endless blue. Star Convoy. The being's shape was humanoid but not human, too symmetrical, too perfect, as if designed by mathematics that Peter didn't have the language to understand. Its eyes held galaxies. Peter, his voice hollow, resigned, are you here to kill me? Go ahead, I'm done. Star Convoy did not speak. It raised one hand, slowly, gently, and placed it against Peter's chest. The touch was warm, warmer than anything Peter had felt in months. Warmer than Aunt May's hugs used to be. Warmer than Mary Jane's hand in his. Warmer than Uncle Ben's voice, telling him that with great power came great responsibility. Peter stopped breathing. Star Convoy, a voice that was not sound, but something older, meaning without vibration. I have watched you, Peter Parker. I have seen you sacrifice everything. Your body, your mind, your reputation, your future. You gave all of it to a world that never deserved you. Peter's throat tightened. Star Convoy, the heroes of this reality have thrown you away like trash. Your so-called friends have become your hunters. The city you saved 1,000 times has denounced you as a threat. Its hand did not move. The warmth did not fade. Star Convoy, I am not here to kill you, Peter. I am here to offer you a second chance. Peter stared at the being of cosmic energy. Peter, a second chance. What kind? Star Convoy, a new life. In a new universe. Far from this one. The gift. Star Convoy's hand withdrew. In its place, held in the being's palm, was a small device. A watch. Sleek, dark, pulsing with the same warm light that radiated from Star Convoy's form. Peter, taking it, confused, what is this? Star Convoy, your new beginning. When you are ready, you will find a portal in the alley behind this building. It will take you to Earth 616. A world of heroes and miracles. A world where no one knows your face or your failures. Peter turned the watch over in his hands. Star Convoy, but first. The being placed its hand on Peter's chest again. This time, the warmth was not gentle. It was power. 1.1s. Peter's body glitched. He felt his cells rewriting themselves. Felt new pathways opening in his mind, pathways that had nothing to do with spiders and everything to do with reality itself. He could see the code beneath the world. The architecture of existence. The small, beautiful flaws in the universe that no one else had ever noticed. Peter, gasping, what are you doing to me? Star Convoy, giving you the tools to build a new life. Your spider powers remain, but they have evolved. You will find that your new abilities are not bound by the same rules as before. 11.5s. When the power surge ended, Peter collapsed to his knees. He was sweating, shaking. His vision swam with colors he had never seen before, neon cyan, magenta, the shimmer of corrupted data at the edges of reality. But he was alive, and he could feel everything differently. Star Convoy, stepping back, its form beginning to fade, the portal will remain open until you choose to use it. Take your time, say your goodbyes, or don't. The choice is yours. The warmth began to recede. Star Convoy, one more thing, Peter Parker. Peter looked up. Star Convoy, there is an organization in your new home. Dispatch. They recruit enhanced individuals, those who do not fit the traditional hero mold. They are not perfect, but they are different. You may find a place there. Or you may not. That, too, is your choice. Star Convoy was gone. Time resumed. The glass from the shattered television hit the floor. The decision. Peter sat in the dark for a long time. The watch rested in his palm. Warm. Waiting. He thought about everything. He thought about Uncle Ben. About the lesson that had defined his entire life. About the responsibility he had carried for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to put it down. He thought about Aunt May. About the way she had looked at him when the truth came out, not with anger, but with something worse. Disappointment. Fear. The quiet certainty that she had failed to raise him right. He thought about Mary Jane. About the wedding that never happened. About the way she had walked away, and the way he had let her go, because he had believed, foolishly, desperately, that being Spider-Man was more important than being Peter. He thought about his friends. The ones who had hunted him. The ones who had tried to kill him. He thought about Miles. About how the boy he had mentored had become a stranger wearing a familiar face. He thought about all of it. Every betrayal. Every whispered insult. Every time someone had looked at him and seen a threat instead of a hero. And he made his choice. Goodbye, Spider-Man. Peter stood up. He walked to the closet where his suit hung, the classic red and blue, the symbol that had meant everything to him for as long as he could remember. He touched the fabric, ran his fingers over the webbing. Then he took it down, folded it carefully, and carried it outside. The dumpster behind his apartment building was overflowing. No one had collected the trash in weeks. No one cared. Peter opened the lid. He looked at the suit one last time. Peter, quietly, to himself, this universe doesn't need Spider-Man. New York already has the Avengers. The X-Men. The Fantastic Four. The Web Warriors. S.H.I.E.L.D. He dropped the suit into the dumpster. It landed with a soft thump. Peter, let them save it. He walked away without looking back. He put on the watch. The nanotech responded instantly, flowing up his arm, across his chest, over his face. Liquid metal and white armor plates reconfigured themselves around his body. Neon cyan and magenta highlights pulsed along the seams, flickering like corrupted data. The suit was lighter than anything he had ever worn. Smarter, too. It responded to his thoughts, his emotions, his intent. When the mask formed, the eyes flickered, shifting shape, adjusting focus, reading the world in ways his old mask never could. Peter looked at his reflection in the dark glass of the alley. Peter, no more Spider-Man. He turned to the portal. It shimmered at the end of the alley, a vertical seam of golden light, humming softly, waiting for him to step through. Peter, his voice steady, final, hello, new life. He walked into the light. The portal closed behind him. No one saw him go. No one noticed that the real Spider-Man had left Earth 616 permanently. No one noticed that he wasn't coming back. Chapter 1. Digital Days. The dispatch hiring office was not what Peter expected. For one thing, it was in the basement of a laundromat. For another, the receptionist was a floating holographic skull that spoke in binary. And for a third, well, Peter had learned to stop expecting things. He'd filled out the application 3 times. The first time, he'd been honest. Former superhero. Reality displaced. Genuinely exhausted. The form had rejected it with a cheerful error, invalid response format. The second time, he'd been technical. Enhanced individual, class unspecified. Reality manipulation capabilities. Seeking employment in heroics or adjacent fields. The system had accepted it, then immediately flagged it for psychiatric review. The third time, he'd just used the watch. The nanotech synced directly with Dispatch's hiring database, bypassing the application process entirely and submitting a classified employee profile directly to the director's personal terminal. It was arrogant. It was reckless. It was exactly the kind of thing the old Peter Parker would never have done. The new Peter Parker didn't care. Skull. Blinking in binary, your application has been expedited. Please proceed to interview chamber 7. Peter stood up. Peter, where's that? Skull. Follow the green line. A glowing green line appeared on the floor, cutting through the concrete like a laser through butter. Peter followed it through a door marked authorized personnel only, down a hallway that smelled like ozone and old coffee, and into a room that was definitely larger than the laundromat above it. The director was waiting. Director, you hacked my terminal. Peter, I submitted an application. Director, through my personal terminal, which has 17 layers of encryption, which my security team swore was unhackable. Peter shrugged. The gesture felt strange. He wasn't used to casual movements anymore, wasn't used to being anything other than tense and ready. Peter, 17 layers is cute. I learned to crack 23 before I turned 16. The director stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. It wasn't a warm laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just found a new tool and was already imagining all the ways it could break. Director, you're hired. Peter, just like that. Director, just like that. You start tomorrow. 0600. Don't be late. The first week was chaos. Dispatch had protocols for new operatives, training sessions, psych evaluations, team integration exercises. Peter attended exactly one of each before realizing he could do more good on his own. So he did. The nanotech suit became his uniform. The watch became his command center. And Pixel Weaver, the name still felt strange, still tasted like borrowed clothes, became a presence in the city. He started small. A car with a dead engine on the side of the road. The driver was an elderly woman, her hands shaking as she stared at the smoking hood. Peter dropped down from a fire escape, the suit retracting to civilian mode as he landed. Woman. Startled, who? Peter, mechanic. Mind if I take a look? He didn't wait for an answer. The watch analyzed the engine in 0.4 seconds, faulty alternator, worn timing belt, low coolant. He fixed the alternator with a precise application of telekinesis, new trick, still learning it, patched the timing belt with nanotech, and refilled the coolant from a convenience store 2 blocks away. Woman. Staring, are you, a hero? Peter, I'm someone who fixes things. He was gone before she could ask more. Then he went bigger. Scammers. Hackers. The faceless parasites who preyed on people who couldn't fight back. Peter followed their digital trails through 17 proxy servers, 3 VPNs, and a darknet marketplace that thought it was untraceable. He found their command center in an abandoned warehouse. Found their servers humming with stolen data. Found the men responsible, sitting in front of glowing screens, laughing about the grandmother they'd conned out of her life savings. Peter didn't fight them. He unmade their operation. Every line of code they'd ever written, corrupted. Every server they'd ever touched, wiped. Every stolen dollar, traced and returned with interest calculated from the moment of theft. When he was done, the scammers sat in a dark room, staring at blank screens, while Peter's voice echoed from every speaker in the warehouse. Peter, voice modulated, glitching, you're done. Find new jobs. Or don't. But you're not doing this anymore. He left them there. Let the police find them. Let the system handle the rest. And then he went smaller again. A kid crying on a street corner, lost, unable to find his parents. Peter crouched down to his level, let the mask retract so the kid could see his face. Peter, hey, what's your name? Kid, sniffling, Tommy. Peter, okay, Tommy. Let's find your mom. The watch tracked the parents through city surveillance, panicked faces, running hands through hair, searching the crowd. Peter guided Tommy through the streets, holding his hand, keeping his voice calm and steady. When they found the mother, she was crying. Mother, thank you, who? But Peter was already gone. Digitally erased from every camera on the block. A ghost in the machine. C-Squad met for the first time on a Tuesday. Peter had been avoiding them. Not because he was scared, because he was tired. The old him would have walked into that room with a speech prepared, with jokes and smiles and desperate hope that they'd like him. The new him walked in with his arms crossed and his expression neutral. Rosé, from the corner, look who finally showed up. She was leaning against a wall that was slowly growing ivy. The plants seemed to respond to her mood, vibrant, almost aggressive, as if they were ready to fight at a moment's notice. Zed, sitting on the floor, energy crackling, I felt you coming from 3 blocks away. You're still loud. Power sponge, towering over everyone, voice like gravel, he's small. Hands on, quietly, from the shadows, he's interesting. Jesse, cleaning a gun that hadn't been dirty, he's late. Frostbite, calm, almost frozen in place, he's here now. That's what matters. Alnico, staring at Peter with unsettling intensity, your suit. It's alive, isn't it? Tempo, drumming on his thighs, grinning, yo. New guy, you like music. Peter stood in the center of the room, surrounded by a team he hadn't asked for, leading a squad he didn't want, and felt something he hadn't felt in months. Annoyance. Peter, here's how this works. I'm the leader. You do what I say. I keep you alive. That's the deal. Jesse, snorting, bold words for a guy who's been here 5 minutes. Peter, I've been here a week. I've stopped 17 crimes, fixed a car, returned $43,000 to scam victims, and reunited a lost child with his mother. What have you done? Jess's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Rosé, smirking, he's got a point, Jesse. Peter, I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to trust me. But you will follow my orders in the field. Because if you don't, people die. And I've seen enough people die. The room went quiet. Tempo, breaking the silence, okay, but seriously, do you like music? Peter stared at him. Peter, glitch hop, chiptune. Tempo's grin widened. Tempo. We're gonna get along just fine. Part 4. The jokes and the arrogance. They made fun of him. Not cruelly, not at first. But there was a testing quality to it, a feeling out process that Peter recognized from every new environment he'd ever entered. Zed. During training, you move like you're expecting to stick to walls. Peter. Old habit. Jesse. During a briefing, Pixel Weaver. What is that, a crafting hobby? Peter. It's better than, the gunslinger. Sounds like a cowboy cosplayer. Rosé. During downtime, you ever smile, new kid? Like, actually smile. Peter. I'm smiling on the inside. Rosé. That's terrifying. He took it. Let it roll off him. The old Peter would have quipped back, would have turned every insult into a joke, would have tried so hard to make them like him. The new Peter just nodded and moved on. But then came the moment when the jokes stopped. It was a simulation. Dispatch ran them every week, holographic scenarios designed to test team cohesion under pressure. This one was a hostage situation. A dozen civilians, a bomb, and a timer counting down from 10 minutes. Peter gave the orders. Peter. Rosé, perimeter control. Block all exits, but leave a corridor on the east side. Hands on, link with power sponge and frostbite, I need coordinated movement. Zed, you're on standby. Don't engage unless I say. Jesse, Overwatch. Tempo, you're with me. Jesse, skeptical, why do you get the easy job? Peter, because I'm the one who can see the bomb's internal mechanism through walls. Any other questions? Jesse, yeah. What makes you think we'll follow you? Peter turned to face him. Peter, because I've been doing this since I was 15. Because I've lost people I loved. Because I've made mistakes that got people killed. And because every single order I give is designed to make sure none of you make those same mistakes. He stepped closer. Peter, you don't have to like me, Jesse. But you will respect me. And if you can't do that, you can explain to the director why C Squad's field leader requested a transfer on his first day. Jesse held his gaze for a long moment. Then he looked away. Jesse. Fine. Overwatch it is. The simulation ran for 8 minutes. They saved everyone. The bomb never went off. When it was over, the team stood in the training room, breathing hard, staring at Peter like they were seeing him for the first time. Rosé. Quietly, that was clean. Peter. That's the point. He walked away without waiting for praise. He met Marcus Chen in the repair bay. Marcus was a mechanic, or rather, Marcus was a hero who happened to also be a mechanic. His suit was bulky, functional, ugly. It looked like someone had welded together a car and called it armor. Marcus. Not looking up from his work, you're the new guy. Peter. How can you tell? Marcus. You've got that look. I've seen some shit, look. He finally turned around, revealing a face that was calm, almost bored. Dark eyes. Short black hair. The expression of someone who had accepted that life was chaotic and decided not to let it bother him. Marcus. Mecha Man. Peter. That's certainly a name. Marcus. Shrugging, I'm not creative. You got a problem with my suit. Peter looked at the armor. Really looked at it. The watch analyzed weight distribution, joint flexibility, power consumption. The numbers were not great. Peter, your suit is inefficient. The plating is too heavy. The joints are under-lubricated. And your power core is mismatched to your servo output by at least 40%. Marcus blinked. Marcus, you can tell all that just by looking. Peter, I can tell more by touching. He walked over to the suit, placed his hand on its chest plate. The watch synced with its internal systems, mapping every flaw, every inefficiency, every place where the design could be improved. Peter, you're fighting the suit instead of fighting your enemies. Every movement costs you energy that should be going into your attacks. Marcus, slowly, you're not wrong. Peter, I can fix it. Marcus, why? Peter considered the question. Why was he offering to help? He didn't know this man. Didn't owe him anything. Didn't have any reason to get involved. But Marcus reminded him of someone. Someone who had built a suit in a cave with a box of scraps. Someone who had started with nothing and become something extraordinary. Tony Stark. But without the ego. Without the betrayal. Without the memory of stealing Parker Industries out from under him. Peter, because everyone deserves a suit that works. 3 days later, Marcus had a new armor. It was sleeker, lighter, The plating was segmented, allowing for full range of motion without sacrificing protection. The power core had been recalibrated. The joints moved like they were oiled with thought itself. Marcus stood in front of a mirror, rotating his arms, flexing his fingers. Marcus, genuinely surprised, this is incredible. How did you? Peter, I'm good with machines. Marcus, you're better than good. He turned to face Peter, his bored expression finally cracking into something like wonder. Who are you? Peter, Pixel Weaver. Your coworker. Marcus, that's not what I meant. Peter didn't answer. He just nodded once and walked away. Part 6, The Complicated Ones. Hands-on found him in the break room at 2 a.m. She moved silently, her power, the nervous system linking, gave her an awareness of others that bordered on precognition. She knew where Peter was before she entered the room, knew his heart rate, his breathing pattern, the subtle tension in his shoulders. Hands on, you don't sleep. Peter, not looking up from his tablet, neither do you. Hands on, I'm an insomniac. What's your excuse? Peter, nightmares. She sat down across from him. Her real name was Rosa, he'd seen it in her file, though she never used it in the field. She was pretty in a sharp, dangerous way, with dark hair and darker eyes and a smile that suggested she knew something you didn't. Rosa, you're interesting, Peter. Peter, I'm really not. Rosa, you are. You're from another universe. You used to be a different hero. You have powers that don't make sense. And you won't talk to anyone about any of it. Peter, because it's not relevant. Rosa, leaning forward, isn't it? Everything about you is relevant. The way you move, the way you fight, the way you look at people like you're waiting for them to hurt you. Peter finally looked up. Peter, what do you want, Rosa? Rosa, I want to know if you're as lonely as you seem. The question hung in the air between them. Peter thought about Mary Jane. About Gwen. About all the women he'd loved and lost, all the relationships that had crumbled under the weight of his responsibilities. He thought about how long it had been since he'd let anyone close. Peter, I'm not looking for a relationship. Rosa, I didn't ask if you were looking. I asked if you were lonely. Peter, yes. She nodded, as if that was the answer she'd expected. Rosa, good. That's honest. I can work with honest. She stood up and walked away, leaving Peter alone with his tablet and the strange, uncomfortable feeling that he'd just been seen. Rosé was different. She found him on the roof the next night, not following him, exactly, just knowing where he'd be. Her plants seemed to guide her, vines curling toward the rooftop door like green fingers pointing the way. Rosé, Rosa talked to you. Peter, she talks to everyone. Rosé, sitting down beside him, she doesn't. She's interested in you. That's rare. Peter, I'm not interested in her. Rosé, I know. She looked at him sideways, her purple hair catching the moonlight. That's what's interesting. Most guys would be flattered. You just look tired. Peter, I am tired. Rosé, of what? Peter, everything. They sat in silence for a while. The city hummed below them, cars, sirens, the distant thrum of a world that never stopped moving. Rosé, quietly, I lost control once. Lost it bad. Took out a city block before they got me stabilized. Peter looked at her. Rosé, dispatch found me in a containment cell. I'd been there for 6 months. They gave me a second chance. She met his eyes. I see that same look in you. I've done terrible things and I'm not sure I deserve to be here, look. Peter, I haven't done terrible things. I've had terrible things done to me. There's a difference. Rosé, is there? He didn't have an answer for that. Rosé, standing, you're a good leader, Peter. Better than you think. But you're going to burn out if you keep everyone at arm's length. Peter, I've been burned before. Rosé, we all have. That's why we're here. She walked back toward the door, then paused. Rosé, for what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. Leaving your old universe. Coming here. Peter, you don't know anything about my old universe. Rosé, I know enough. She smiled, soft, almost sad. You're not running away, Peter. You're running too. There's a difference. She left. Peter stayed on the roof until sunrise. By the end of the month, Peter had settled into a rhythm. Mornings were for training, his own, mostly, pushing his new powers to their limits, learning the boundaries of what he could and couldn't do. The reality hacking was coming easier now. He could glitch through solid matter for up to 3 seconds before his atoms started to destabilize. He could see the code beneath reality for up to a minute before the migraines hit. Afternoons were for dispatch work. Missions with C Squad, most of them small scale, drug busts, hostage rescues, the occasional super-powered brawl. They were getting better as a team. Still rough around the edges, still testing each other, but better. Evenings were for his independent work. The small stuff. The things that didn't make headlines. The old woman with the car. The lost kid. The scam victims. The people who needed help and didn't know where to turn. And nights were for thinking. He sat on the roof of dispatch headquarters, the same roof he'd sat on that first night. The city sprawled below him. His city now. His responsibility. The watch pulsed softly on his wrist. Peter, to no one, I don't miss it. He said it aloud, testing the words. Waiting for the lie to reveal itself. It didn't. He didn't miss Earth-616. Didn't miss the Avengers or the X-Men or the Fantastic Four or any of the people who had turned on him. Didn't miss the betrayal or the fear or the constant, grinding exhaustion of trying to prove himself to people who had already decided he was guilty. He missed Uncle Ben, missed Aunt May, missed the simple, uncomplicated love of people who had known him before he became a hero. But those people were gone. Had been gone for a long time. Peter, this is my life now. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a hope. It was a statement of fact. The nanotech suit rippled across his skin, responding to his mood. Neon cyan and magenta. Glitching edges. The face of a hero no one had heard of, in a universe that didn't know his name. Peter, Pixel Weaver. He stood up. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New threats. New reasons to be afraid. But tonight, he was exactly where he was supposed to be. And for the first time in a very long time, that was enough. Chapter 2, First Contact. The alarm came at 0347. Peter was awake. He was always awake, had been since the mutation, since his body decided that sleep was a luxury for people who weren't constantly rewriting their own cellular structure. He sat on his cot, tablet in hand, reviewing the previous day's patrol data, when the lights flickered red and the mechanical voice filled his room. Code Black. Industrial District. Unauthorized portal activity. Reality breach imminent. All available C Squad personnel report to Deployment Bay 4. Asterisk. Peter was moving before the announcement finished. The nanotech suit flowed over his body like liquid metal, white armor plates sliding into position, neon cyan and magenta highlights pulsing in rhythm with his accelerated heartbeat. The mask formed last, adaptive eyes flickering, calibrating, scanning for threats that hadn't even manifested yet. Peter, to the watch, status. Watch AI, localized reality distortion detected. Origin point, abandoned Stark Industries facility, Sector 7. Energy signature, unknown. Probability of hostile intent, 78.3%. Peter, that's not high enough to be confident. Watch AI, apologies. Probability of hostile intent, 94.1%. Peter, better. He ran. Deployment Bay 4 was chaos when he arrived. Not the good kind of chaos, the pre-mission energy that came from a team that knew what it was doing. This was the bad kind. The kind that came from a team that hadn't quite figured out how to work together yet. Zed was vibrating so hard the floor beneath him was cracking. Energy bled from his pores in visible waves, flickering between blue and gold like a faulty light bulb. Rosé, grabbing his shoulders, Zed. Zed, look at me. Breathe. Zed. Voice strained, I can feel it. The portal. It's like someone screaming in a language I almost understand. Jesse. Loading his pistols with methodical precision, can we focus? We have a job to do. Hands on. Already linked with Power Sponge, their movements synchronized, we need a plan. We can't just run in. Frostbite. Calm, almost frozen in place, the plan is we go in, we assess, we adapt. That's how this works. Tempo. Drumming on his thighs, restless, or we could just. Peter. Everyone shut up. The room went silent. Peter walked to the center of the bay, the suit's glitch aura flickering around him like a second skin. He looked at each member of C Squad in turn. Rosé. Hands on. Zed. Power Sponge. Frostbite. Jesse. Tempo. Alnico wasn't there, She was probably already in her lab, monitoring from a safe distance. Smart. Peter, here's how this works. We don't know what's through that portal. We don't know who opened it or why. That means we treat it as a maximum threat until proven otherwise. He pulled up a holographic display of the facility. The watch had already mapped the layout, identified entry points, highlighted potential hazards. Peter, Rosé, you're on perimeter control. If anything comes out of that portal that isn't us, you contain it. Vines, roots, fungal spreads, I don't care. Nothing gets past you. Rosé, nodding, understood. Peter, hands on, you're with Power Sponge and Frostbite. Link up the moment we're inside. I want coordinated movement and shared reflexes. If one of you sees a threat, all of you see it. Hands on, damage feedback. Peter, will be managed. Keep the link shallow until we confirm no psychic threats. Deepen only on my command. Frostbite, and if we're separated. Peter, you won't be. That's the point. He turned to Zed. Peter, you're on standby. I know you can feel the portal. I know you want to engage. But you're our nuclear option, and I'm not detonating a nuclear option until I know what we're dealing with. Do you understand? Zed's jaw tightened. The energy bleeding from his skin dimmed, not gone, but controlled. Barely. Zed, I understand. Peter, Jesse, Tempo, you're with me. We go in first, assess the situation, and call in support if needed. Jesse, you're on Overwatch. Tempo, you're my rhythm, keep me moving, keep me covered. Jesse, raising an eyebrow, you trust me to have your back. Peter, I trust you to want to prove me wrong. That's almost as good. Jesse almost smiled. Tempo, grinning, finally. Someone who gets it. Peter, one more thing. He looked at all of them. Nobody does anything heroic. Nobody tries to be the star. We go in, we do the job, we get out. Everyone goes home tonight. That's an order. He turned toward the deployment doors. Peter, C-Squad, move out. The Stark Industries facility had been abandoned for 7 years. Peter knew this because the watch told him. Knew it because the air tasted like rust and neglect. Knew it because the walls were covered in graffiti, tags and symbols and angry manifestos scrawled by people who had probably never set foot inside the building. The portal was in sublevel 3. They found it after clearing 2 floors of automated security, old drones, patched together by someone who understood Stark tech better than most. Peter disabled them without breaking stride. A glitch here, a hacked command there. The drones didn't even know they'd been compromised until they were already shutting down. Jesse, muttering, that's unsettling. Peter, what is? Jesse, the way you just walk through technology like it's not even there. Peter, it's not. Not to me. They reached sublevel 3. The portal was wrong. That was the only word for it. It hung in the center of a massive chamber, a vertical tear in reality that shimmered with colors Peter had never seen before. Colors that shouldn't exist, colors that made his eyes hurt just to look at them. The air around it crackled with static electricity. Time seemed to move differently near its edges, seconds stretching into moments, moments compressing into heartbeats. Tempo. Quietly, that's not normal, right? That's not what portals are supposed to look like. Peter, no. That's not what portals are supposed to look like. He stepped closer. The watch was screaming warnings, reality instability, dimensional bleed, probability collapse. Numbers flashed across his vision, each one worse than the last. Watch AI, recommend immediate retreat. Portal stability is deteriorating. Estimated time to catastrophic failure, 14 minutes. Peter, can we close it? Watch AI, unknown. Portal energy signature does not match any known dimensional frequency. Attempting to close could accelerate failure. Peter, and if we do nothing? Watch AI, catastrophic failure will consume a 2-kilometer radius. Estimated casualties, 15,000 to 20,000. Asterisk. Peter's blood went cold. Peter, overcoms Rosé. Prep for full perimeter containment. Frostbite, I need you ready to freeze momentum. If this thing blows, I want everything in a 500-meter radius locked in place. Hands-on, shallow link with the whole team. I need everyone coordinated. Rosé, what's happening? Peter, we're about to have a very bad day. Something came through the portal. Not someone. Something. It was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with a body that seemed to be made of folded space and broken physics. Its limbs moved in directions that shouldn't be possible, joints bending at angles that made Peter's brain hurt. Its face, if you could call it that, was a swirling vortex of darkness, punctuated by 2 points of brilliant, malevolent red light. Tempo. What the hell is that? Peter. I don't know. But it's not friendly. The creature's red eyes fixed on them. And then it screamed. The sound wasn't audible, not in any normal sense. It was a psychic blast, a wave of pure existential dread that crashed over Peter like a physical force. He felt his knees buckle. Felt his mind try to reject what his eyes were seeing. Felt the spider sense he'd relied on for so long simply stop working, overwhelmed by the impossibility of the thing in front of him. Hands on. Over comms, voice strained. The link. It's trying to break the link. Frostbite. Hold it together. Focus on my breathing. Match my rhythm. Jesse. Firing, bullets phasing through the creature like it wasn't there. Conventional weapons are useless. It's not solid. Peter. Of course it's not solid. It's made of folded space. Bullets can't hit something that isn't really there. He stepped forward. The creature turned to face him. Its red eyes narrowed, if a vortex of darkness could narrow, and it took a step in his direction. The ground beneath its feet warped, concrete twisting into patterns that looked almost like faces. Peter. Okay. Let's try something different. He raised his hand. The nanotech suit flared. Neon cyan and magenta light poured from his palm, and Peter reached into the code beneath reality, the architecture of existence, the small, beautiful flaws in the universe that no one else could see. He found the creature's signature. It was like nothing he'd ever encountered. Not a living thing, not a machine, not a construct. Something in between. Something that existed in the spaces between dimensions, feeding on reality like a parasite on a host. Peter. You're not supposed to be here. The creature screamed again. This time, Peter screamed back. He pushed, not with his body, but with his will. With the reality-hacking power that Star Convoy had forced into his cells. He found the edges of the creature's form, the places where it intersected with this dimension, and he started to unravel it. It was like pulling a thread from a sweater. The creature thrashed. Its limbs flailed, its red eyes blazed, and the portal behind it began to destabilize faster, flickering, shrinking, growing, like a heartbeat that couldn't decide whether to stop or keep going. Watch AI, portal critical. Estimated time to catastrophic failure, 6 minutes. Peter. Zed. Now. Zed had been waiting. The kid exploded into the chamber like a supernova given human form. Energy blazed from every pore, lighting up the darkness, pushing back the creature's existential dread with sheer, overwhelming power. Zed. Voice echoing, where do you want it? Peter. The portal. I need you to pump energy into the portal. Stabilize it. Give me time to finish the creature. Zed. I thought we were closing it. Peter. Plan changed. Do it. Zed didn't hesitate. He turned to the portal and let go. The energy that poured from him was blinding, a torrent of light and heat and pure, unfiltered power. The portal flickered, groaned, and then began to stabilize. The colors stopped shifting. The edges stopped crackling. For the first time since they'd arrived, the portal looked almost calm. Watch AI, portal stability improving. Estimated time to catastrophic failure, 22 minutes and increasing. Peter. Good. Now hold it. He turned back to the creature. It was weaker now. The unraveling had taken a toll, its form was flickering, its edges less defined. But it wasn't done. Not yet. It lunged at him. Peter dodged, not with the grace of Spider-Man, but with something new. Something that let him step between moments, slip through the cracks in time, appear behind the creature before it had even finished its attack. Creature. Voice like grinding metal. Interloper. You do not belong in this reality. Peter. Funny. I was about to say the same thing about you. He reached into its core. The creature screamed, a real scream this time, audible and pained and dying. Peter's hand passed through its folded space body and found the heart of it, a small, pulsing sphere of pure dimensional energy. The thing that was keeping it anchored to this world. Peter. Go home. He crushed it. The creature collapsed in on itself, folding, shrinking, imploding into a point of light that winked out of existence. The portal behind it flickered once, twice, and then began to close on its own, no longer held open by whatever force had summoned the creature. Rosé, overcoms perimeter holding. Nothing got past. Frostbite. Momentum frozen. You're clear. Hands on. The link is stable. Everyone's alive. Jesse. Huh. Tempo. That was awesome. Peter stood in the center of the chamber, breathing hard, his suit flickering with residual energy. The portal was almost closed now, just a thin seam of light, barely visible. Zed. Collapsing to his knees. I can't, too much. Peter. Easy. I've got you. He crossed to Zed's side, helped the kid to his feet. Zed was shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. His skin was pale, his eyes dim. He'd put everything into stabilizing the portal. Peter. You did good. Zed. Weakly. I didn't lose control. Peter. No, you didn't. The portal closed. The chamber went dark. The director didn't smile. She stood at the head of the conference room, arms crossed, watching the holographic playback of the mission. C-Squad sat around the table, bruised, exhausted, but alive. Peter stood at the window, watching the city below, not quite ready to sit down. Director. You saved 20,000 people tonight. Peter. That's the job. Director. Most teams wouldn't have figured it out in time. Most teams would have lost someone. Peter. I don't have most teams. I have C-Squad. He glanced back at them. Rosé, her plants still twitching with residual adrenaline. Hands on, carefully unlinking from Power Sponge's nervous system. Zed, wrapped in a thermal blanket, sipping something that was probably 90% sugar. Frostbite, calm as ever. Jesse, cleaning his guns, a nervous habit. Tempo, still drumming, but slower now, almost meditative. Director. You're fitting in. Peter. I'm doing a job. Director. Those aren't mutually exclusive. She walked over to him, lowered her voice so only he could hear. Director. You could have run. When the portal opened, when you saw what was coming through, you could have run. No one would have blamed you. You've been here less than 2 months. Peter. Running's not really my thing anymore. Director. Good. Because I have a feeling you're going to be doing this for a long time. She walked away, dismissing the team with a wave of her hand. Peter found his way to the roof. He always found his way to the roof. High places felt like home in a way that beds and couches and rooms never did. Maybe it was the years of swinging between skyscrapers. Maybe it was something deeper. Something in his DNA. The city glittered below him. Unharmed. Unaware of how close it had come to annihilation. Rosé, stepping out of the stairwell, thought I'd find you here. Peter. It's a good roof. Rosé. It's the roof. She sat down beside him, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something floral, something wild. You saved us tonight. Peter. I did my job. Rosé. You did more than your job. You gave Zed a chance to prove himself. You trusted Jesse to have your back. You let hands-on link the team even though it scares you. Peter said nothing. Rosé. You're a good leader, Peter. Peter. I'm a leader who got lucky. Rosé. Quietly, that's what all the good ones say. They sat in silence for a while. The city hummed. The stars came out, one by one, scattered across a sky that was slightly too blue and slightly too bright and completely, utterly foreign. Rosé. Do you ever miss it? Your old life? Peter considered the question. Peter. I miss the people. Not the life. Rosé. That's fair. She stood up, brushed off her uniform. Rosé. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. Peter. Even though I'm terrifying. Rosé. Smiling, especially because you're terrifying. Keeps things interesting. She walked back toward the stairwell, then paused. Rosé. Oh, and Peter. Peter. Yeah. Rosé. Rosa's going to ask you out tomorrow. Just so you're prepared. She was gone before he could respond. Peter stared at the empty doorway for a long moment. Peter. To himself, of course she is. He looked back at the city. His city now. His responsibility. The watch pulsed softly on his wrist. Peter. One day at a time. Chapter 3. Fractures and Foundations. Peter woke up to sunlight. That was unusual. He'd spent so many years waking up in darkness, before dawn, before the world was awake, before his responsibilities could find him, that sunlight felt almost like a luxury. Something he wasn't quite entitled to. He blinked at the ceiling of his small house. It wasn't much. A 2-bedroom rental on the edge of the city, with a leaky faucet in the kitchen and a landlord who didn't ask questions. Dispatch paid well, better than well, actually. Enough that Peter had been able to put a down payment on the place without dipping into the modest savings he'd brought from his old universe. The house was quiet. No sirens. No alarms. No J. Jonah Jameson screaming from a broken television. Just silence. Peter sat up slowly, running a hand through his messy brown hair. The nanotech watch sat on the nightstand, pulsing softly with its own quiet heartbeat. His civilian clothes were folded on the chair, jeans, a gray hoodie, worn sneakers. Normal clothes. Anonymous clothes. Peter, to himself, you're stalling. He was. Because today wasn't a normal day. Today, he had a date. The date had been Rosa's idea. Not that she'd framed it that way. She'd approached him after the mission debrief, her dark eyes sharp and her smile sharper, and she'd said, "You need to eat. Real food, not protein bars from the vending machine." Peter, "I eat real food." Rosa, "Microwaved burritos don't count." Peter, "They're efficient." Rosa, "They're sad. Let me buy you dinner." And Peter, exhausted, off balance, still running on adrenaline from the portal mission, had said yes before he could think about it. That had been 3 days ago. Now he was standing in front of his bathroom mirror, staring at his own reflection, trying to remember the last time he'd been on an actual date. Gwen, maybe. Or had it been MJ? The memories blurred together now, stained by grief and betrayal and the slow erosion of everything he'd once believed in. Peter, it's just dinner. It's not a relationship. It's just dinner. The reflection didn't look convinced. His phone buzzed. Rosa, I'm outside. Don't keep me waiting. Peter took a deep breath, grabbed his jacket, and walked out the door. Rosa had chosen a fast food place. Not a dive, exactly, but nothing fancy. A burger joint on the corner of 7th and Main, with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that only played songs from the 80s. It was the kind of place Peter would have chosen himself, unpretentious, anonymous, filled with the kind of people who didn't look twice at anyone. She was already there when he arrived. Rosa, hands-on, though she hated that name, preferred to be called by her real name when she wasn't in the field, sat in a corner booth, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, wearing a simple black dress that somehow made her look both casual and dangerous. Her forearms, visible below her rolled-up sleeves, were crossed on the table. Muscular. Defined. She looked like someone who could break a man in half and smile while doing it. She was smiling now. Rosa, you came. Peter, sliding into the booth across from her, I said I would. Rosa, people say a lot of things. Peter, I'm not most people. Rosa, no, you're really not. The waiter came. They ordered burgers, fries, milkshakes, strawberry for her, chocolate for him. The kind of meal Peter hadn't had since, he couldn't remember when. Maybe never. Spider-Man didn't exactly have time for milkshakes. They talked. Nothing deep, at first. Just surface stuff, dispatch gossip, team dynamics, the weird quirks of the city they now called home. Rosa was easy to talk to, Peter discovered. She laughed at his dry humor, asked questions that showed she was actually listening, and didn't flinch when his answers were shorter than they should have been. Rosa, you're good at deflecting. Peter, it's a skill. Rosa, it's a defense mechanism. I do it too. She took a sip of her milkshake, watching him over the rim of her glass. You don't have to tell me everything, Peter. I know you've got secrets. Everyone in dispatch has secrets. But you can tell me something. Anything. Just, let me in a little. Peter looked at her. She was beautiful, yes. But more than that, she was present. Fully, completely, unapologetically present. Not looking past him toward the door, not checking her phone, not calculating how this conversation might benefit her later. She was just there. Peter, slowly, I used to be someone else. Rosa, I know. The director told us. Peter, she doesn't know everything. Rosa, then tell me something she doesn't know. Peter opened his mouth. And the door of the restaurant swung open. Rosa's smile didn't fade, but it shifted. Became sharper. More predatory. Because the woman who walked through the door wasn't a stranger. She was tall. Athletic. Her hair was cut short in a way that emphasized the strong lines of her jaw and the intensity of her green eyes. She wore a leather jacket over a dark tank top, and her arms, like Rose's, were corded with muscle. But where Rose's strength was understated, almost hidden, this woman's strength was announced. She walked like she owned the room. She walked like she'd never been afraid of anything in her entire life. Rosé, smirking, thought I'd find you here. Peter's stomach dropped. Peter, Rosé, what are you? Rosé, I'm here for dinner. She slid into the booth next to Rosa, close enough that their shoulders touched. You don't mind, do you? Rosa's smile widened. Rosa, not at all. The more the merrier. Peter looked between them. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife, but it wasn't hostile. It was something else. Something he didn't quite have a name for. Rosé, leaning forward, her eyes fixed on Peter, you didn't think you were getting out of this that easy, did you? One date. One woman. That's not how this works. Peter, I don't understand. Rosé, no, you probably don't. She reached across the table and took his hand. Her fingers were warm, calloused, strong. Rosa and I have known each other for years. We share everything. Rosa's hand joined Rosé's, covering Peter's. Rosa, everything. Peter stared at their hands. Then at their faces. Then back at their hands. Peter, slowly, you're both. Rosé, interested. Yes. Rosa, very interested. Peter, in me. Rosé, laughing, don't sound so surprised. You're not exactly hard to look at. And you're interesting. And you're broken in ways that make sense to us. Rosa, we're all broken, Peter. That's why we're here. That's why Dispatch recruited us. That's why we're C Squad. She squeezed his hand. The question is, are you willing to let us in? Peter sat in the red vinyl booth, surrounded by the smell of burgers and the sound of 80s music, and felt something shift in his chest. Not love. Not yet. But possibility. Peter, I don't do relationships. I've tried. They always fall apart. Rosé, because of your old life. Peter, because of me. Rosa, then maybe it's time you tried something different. The food was finished. The conversation had moved from the booth to the street, and from the street to the bowling alley 3 blocks away. Peter wasn't sure how that had happened. 1 minute, he'd been paying for dinner, Rosé had tried to grab the check, but Peter had been faster, his reflexes still tuned to spider speed even when he wasn't wearing the suit. The next minute, they were lacing up bowling shoes and squinting at the glow in the dark pins at the end of the lane. Rosa, I'm going to destroy you both. Rosé, you wish. Peter, I haven't bowled since I was 15. Rosa, excuses. She went first. Her form was perfect, smooth approach, controlled release, follow through that belonged in a textbook. The ball flew down the lane, curved at exactly the right moment, and slammed into the pins with a satisfying crack. Strike. Rosé, groaning, show off. Rosa, grinning, flexing her forearms, these aren't just for breaking bones. Peter watched her walk back to the seating area, something warm unfurling in his chest. He couldn't remember the last time he'd done something this normal. This mundane. This human. Rosé went next. She was less technical than Rosa, more aggressive. Her ball slammed into the pins like it was personally offended by their existence. Another strike. Rosé, turning to Peter, smirking, your turn, new kid. Peter picked up his ball. His spider strength made this tricky, too much force and the ball would crack. Too little and it would roll like a dying slug. He had to calibrate, find the middle ground. He took a breath, released. The ball rolled straight down the center of the lane, fast but controlled, and slammed into the pins with a sound that was almost musical. Strike. Rosa, raising an eyebrow, haven't bowled since I was 15, huh? Peter, shrugging, I'm a fast learner. Rosé, leaning close, her voice low, I bet you are. They played 3 games. Rosa won the first. Peter won the second, barely. Rosé won the third, with a ridiculous spare in the 10th frame that she celebrated by lifting Peter off his feet and spinning him around. Peter, laughing, actually laughing, put me down. Rosé, make me. He could have, easily. His strength was more than enough to break her grip. But he didn't want to. He didn't want this moment to end. The theater was almost empty. A small indie place that smelled like popcorn and old carpet, showing a revival of some black and white film Peter had never heard of. Rosa picked the seats, back row, corner, away from the few other patrons scattered throughout the theater. Peter, you're not actually going to watch the movie, are you? Rosa, nope. Rosé, we're here for the atmosphere. They sat on either side of him. Rosa's hand found his. Rosé's head settled on his shoulder. The movie started, something about love and loss and the futility of war, but Peter couldn't have summarized a single scene if his life depended on it. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking. He wasn't planning, wasn't calculating, wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. He was just present. Rosa, whispering, "You're tense." Peter, "I'm always tense." Rosé, against his shoulder, "We're going to fix that." They didn't. Not completely. The tension was too deep, too ingrained, too much a part of who he'd become. But it eased. A little. Enough that Peter felt his breathing slow, his heart rate drop, his muscles unclench one by one. The movie ended. They didn't move. Rosé, "Come home with us." Peter, "I don't." Rosa, "It's not a trick, Peter. It's an invitation." Peter, "I barely know you." Rosa, "You know us better than you think. You've fought beside us. Trusted us with your life. That's more than most people ever get." Rosé, "We're not asking for forever. We're asking for tonight." Peter looked at them. At Rosa's sharp eyes and Rosé's easy smile. At the way they fit together, the way they made space for him between them. He thought about his empty house. His empty bed. The years of loneliness he'd accepted as the price of being Spider-Man. Peter, "Okay." The apartment was small but warm. Fairy lights strung across the ceiling. Books stacked on every surface. A cat, gray, fat, indifferent, sleeping on the windowsill. It smelled like cinnamon and something floral, something that reminded Peter of gardens in the rain. Rosa, "Make yourself comfortable." Peter, standing in the middle of the living room, unsure what to do with his hands. "This is nice." Rosé, from the kitchen, already opening a bottle of wine. "She's got good taste. For a heathen." Rosa, "I'm a heathen." Rosé, "You put pineapple on pizza." Rosa, "Pineapple belongs on pizza." Peter, without thinking, "She's right. Pineapple does belong on pizza." Both women turned to look at him. Rosé, "I can't believe this. Two of them." Rosa, grinning, "I knew I liked him." They drank wine. They talked, really talked, about nothing and everything. About Dispatch and C-Squad and the future none of them could predict. About their families, their pasts, the reasons they'd ended up in a universe that wasn't quite their own. Peter didn't tell them everything. He couldn't. The wounds were too fresh, the scars too deep. But he told them something. Fragments. Shards of a life he'd left behind. Enough that they understood, maybe, why he was the way he was. Rosa, quietly, "You've been through a lot." Peter, "Everyone has." Rosé, "Not like you." The conversation drifted. The wine ran out. The cat woke up, gave Peter a judgmental look, and went back to sleep. And eventually, somehow, they ended up in Rosa's bedroom. Peter didn't sleep. Not because he couldn't, but because he didn't want to miss a single moment. Rosa slept on his left, her head on his chest, her dark hair spread across his shoulder like ink spilled on parchment. Rosé slept on his right, her arm draped across his stomach, her breathing slow and even and peaceful. He was trapped. Completely, utterly, wonderfully trapped. He thought about his old life. About Gwen, who had loved him despite everything. About MJ, who had left because she couldn't love him because of everything. About the parade of relationships that had crumbled under the weight of his responsibilities, his secrets, his refusal to let anyone get too close. This was different. Not because Rosa and Rosé were different, though they were. But because he was different. He wasn't trying to protect them from his life. He wasn't hiding behind a mask or making excuses for broken promises. He was just Peter. Peter, whispering, to no one, "I could get used to this." Rosa stirred. Rosa, mumbling, "You better." She pulled him closer. Rosé made a small sound of protest in her sleep, then settled. Peter closed his eyes. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, he slept without nightmares. Part 9. The morning. He woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Rosé was already in the kitchen, wearing one of Rosa's t-shirts and nothing else, making breakfast with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Rosa was still in bed, watching Peter with half-lidded eyes. Rosa, you stayed. Peter, I said I would. Rosa, people say a lot of things. Peter, reaching out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, I'm not most people. She caught his hand, held it against her cheek. Rosa, no, you're really not. They stayed in bed for another hour. Not doing anything, just being. Just existing in the same space, the same moment, the same fragile pocket of happiness that Peter had almost forgotten was possible. When they finally emerged, Rosé had made pancakes. Rosé, plating them, you're both hopeless. Rosa, you love us. Rosé, unfortunately. They ate together. Rosa's cat, Mochi, Peter learned, wandered over and demanded tribute. Peter gave her a piece of bacon, which earned him a grudging headbutt of approval. Rosé, she doesn't like anyone. Peter, I'm charming. Rosé, you're something. The morning stretched into afternoon. They didn't talk about the future. Didn't talk about what this meant or where it was going. They just existed together. And for Peter, that was enough. Peter walked home alone. The city was bright around him, full of noise and movement and life. People hurried past, oblivious to the fact that a refugee from another universe was walking among them. A hero without a past. A leader without a team, for the moment. He felt light. Not happy, exactly. Happiness was still too sharp, too fragile, too easily shattered. But lighter. Like a weight he'd been carrying for so long he'd forgotten it was there, had finally been set down. His phone buzzed. Rosa, tonight. Peter, same place. Rosé, same place. Don't be late. Peter, I'm never late. Rosé, liar. Peter smiled. He tucked his phone back into his pocket and kept walking. Past the coffee shops and the apartment buildings and the tiny park where children were playing. Past the life he'd left behind and the life he was building now. He thought about his old girlfriends. Gwen, who had understood his heart but not his burden. MJ, who had understood his burden but not his heart. The others, brief, bright flames that had burned out too fast. They hadn't understood. Not really. But Rosa and Rosé, they didn't need to understand everything. They just needed to understand enough. Peter, to himself, this is different. It was. He could feel it in his bones. In the way his spider sense had gone quiet, not silent, never silent, but quieter. In the way his glitch aura had stabilized, the neon cyan and magenta lines pulsing in slow, even rhythms. He wasn't healed. He wasn't sure he'd ever be healed. But he was building something. Something new. Something that might, eventually, become a home. That night, Peter found himself on the roof again. Not because he was running. Not because he was hiding. Just because. The city sprawled below him. His city, now. His responsibility. He heard the door open behind him before he saw who it was. His spider sense didn't warn him, it didn't need to. He knew those footsteps. Rosé, joining him at the edge. You're thinking too loud. Peter, I'm always thinking. Rosé, I know. It's exhausting to watch. She leaned against the railing beside him, her shoulder brushing his. Rosa's worried. Peter, about what? Rosé, about you. About us. About whether this is too much, too fast. Peter was quiet for a moment. Peter, I've spent my whole life moving too fast. Running toward danger, running away from connection. I don't know how to do slow. Rosé, then learn. Peter, it's not that simple. Rosé, yes, it is. Slowing down is a choice, Peter. Every day, every moment. You choose to be present. You choose to let people in. You choose to stop running. She turned to face him, her purple hair catching the moonlight. Rosé, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to hurt you. We're not going to betray you or abandon you or any of the other things you're afraid of. That's a promise. Peter, you can't promise that. Rosé, I just did. She kissed him. Soft. Brief. A promise sealed. Rosé, come inside. Rosa's making tea. And Mochi is judging us from the couch. Peter almost laughed. Peter, she's always judging. Rosé, she's a cat. It's what they do. They walked inside together. And for the first time in a very long time, Peter Parker didn't look back. Chapter 4, The World Without Him. The television flickered in the window of an abandoned electronics store. No one was watching. The street was empty, barricaded, scarred, still smoking from a battle that had ended 3 hours ago. The Avengers had come. The Avengers had fought. The Avengers had lost. Again. Betty Brant. On screen, her voice cracking, "This is Betty Brant, and I bring you breaking news." The image behind her shifted, footage of the sky tearing open, a beam of light piercing the clouds, a figure falling from the heavens. The official story was that Spider-Man had died in that explosion. The truth, what little of it remained, was buried under layers of grief and guilt and convenient lies. Betty Brant. 2 weeks ago, a phenomenon caused the sky to change color. After this, it was revealed that Spider-Man was killed by an explosion at the origin of the beam of energy. Her face tightened. Betty Brant. The identity of Spider-Man was leaked by an anonymous source. The heroes after the event confirmed this leak and told the world Spider-Man has died, also known as Peter Parker. A young man. Just 20 years old. She paused. Swallowed. Betty Brant. The crime rate has increased rapidly. The city called for help from the Avengers and X-Men, as normal street-level heroes were unable to stop this wave of violence. But they ignored the calls for help. Another clip appeared. Tony Stark, standing at a podium, his expression cold and dismissive. Tony Stark. From the recording, "We are the Avengers. We only deal with actual threats to the world. We won't lower ourselves to deal with petty crime and second-rate villains." The crowd erupted. Boos. Shouts. A woman tried to rush the stage, her face twisted with rage. Tony's suit materialized around him in an instant, repulsors glowing. The broadcast cut back to Betty. Betty Brant. Mr. Stark has caused a rift between heroes and civilians by basically calling them unimportant. The citizens of New York have realized the value and protection Spider-Man gave them. Memorials have been set up across the city as everyone grieves his death, and what they did to him. She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were red. Betty Brant. The Avengers finally acted to stop the uprising but were badly beaten and defeated. They are now again fighting the Sinister Six. This is Betty Brant signing off, and with a heavy heart, bidding farewell to a beloved hero and friend. The screen cut to a memorial montage. Images of Spider-Man, not the mask, but the idea of him. The hero who had saved people. The hero who had never stopped. The hero they'd all turned their backs on. When Miles Morales first appeared in the blue and red suit, the people of New York had cheered. They thought they were saved. They thought Spider-Man had returned from the dead, or that someone worthy had finally stepped up to fill the impossible void left behind. The streets echoed with desperate hope. That hope lasted 3 days. The Sinister Six came again, not holding back this time, not playing games. They'd been waiting, watching, learning. Miles lasted 4 minutes. Rhino. Towering over the broken teenager, "You think you're better than him just because you're in the Avengers and he's not. Let me tell you, that's bullshit." Miles coughed blood onto the pavement. His venom blast fizzled weakly in his palm. "Rhino. He could fight us for hours. A whole day, even. You didn't last a minute against one of us." He grabbed Miles by the throat, lifted him off the ground. "And he could fight all of us at the same time. You're just a cheap, overrated copy with an inflated ego." He threw Miles through a storefront. The other spiders tried to help. They came in waves: Anya, Gwen, Kane, Silk. One by one, the Sinister Six tore them apart. Julia Carpenter, the woman who had once held the web of life and destiny, tried to intervene with her precognitive powers. Craven. Standing over her, "Your visions cannot save you, Madam Web. Your chosen champion lies broken. Your rejected one is gone. And you." He smiled, teeth yellow and sharp. "You are nothing." He beat her within an inch of her life and left her bleeding in an alley. Julia woke in darkness. Not the darkness of unconsciousness, something deeper. Something ancient. She was in the web of life and destiny, the infinite lattice of connections that bound every spider totem across every universe. But the threads around her were dim. Fading. Master Weaver. His voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere, "Julia Carpenter." She tried to stand. Couldn't. "Julia. Master Weaver. I. Master Weaver, you have failed." The words hit her like physical blows. "Master Weaver, you were given the position of Madam Web to observe and protect the web of life. To guide the spiders. To ensure the balance." His form materialized before her, tall, ancient, his body made of woven light and shadow. "Master Weaver, instead, you chose favorites. You decided that one spider was more worthy than another based on nothing but your own prejudice. You abandoned Peter Parker when he needed guidance most. Julia. Desperate, I thought Miles was. Master Weaver. You thought wrong. The web around her tightened. Master Weaver, Peter Parker is not a replacement. He is not a placeholder. He is the reincarnation of Anansi himself, the first spider, the weaver of stories, the foundation upon which this entire web was built. Without him, the web of life and destiny ceases to exist. Julia's blood ran cold. Master Weaver, and because of your inaction, because you did nothing to help him, because you publicly denounced him, because you drove him away, every universe in this web is now at risk. He raised his hand. Master Weaver, you are no longer worthy of the position of Madam Web. Your powers are revoked. Your connection to the web is severed. You will live out the remainder of your days as an ordinary woman, haunted by the knowledge of what you have done. Julia, screaming, no, please, I can fix this. Master Weaver, you cannot fix what you have broken. The darkness consumed her. She woke up in an alley, covered in blood, her powers gone. While the heroes bled, the villains evolved. Dr. Octopus, the real one, not the ghost of Otto Octavius that had once stolen Peter's body, had been busy. He'd spent months studying Stark Industries' security, mapping its weaknesses, exploiting the arrogant gaps in its firewalls. The heist was almost too easy. Doc Ock, holding up a prototype repulsor, they believed themselves untouchable. Invisible. Gods among men. He laughed. But gods bleed when you know where to cut. The same scene played out across the city. The Tinkerer cracked Reed Richards' lab, walking away with unstable molecules and a cosmic control rod. The leader infiltrated Hank Pym's facility, stealing Pym particles and shrinking technology. The wizard gutted the Baxter Building's defense systems. The heroes had built their legacies on ego. On the arrogant belief that no one would dare touch their toys. They were wrong. Every villain in New York received an upgrade. New weapons. New armor. New ways to hurt. The battles got harder. The injuries got worse. The heroes started to lose, not just fights, but territory. Street by street, block by block, the city slipped through their fingers. Victor Von Doom appeared on every screen in New York. Not a hologram. Not a recording. The man himself, his metal mask gleaming, his cape flowing, standing in the ruins of what had once been Avengers Tower. Doom. Citizens of New York. Citizens of Earth. Citizens of a world that has been lied to. Behind him, the Avengers lay bound and unconscious. Tony Stark's armor was scattered across the floor in pieces. Doom. You have been told that your heroes are righteous. That they protect you. That they are worthy of your faith and your adoration. He stepped over Tony's body. Doom. I am here to tell you the truth. The screen split. Footage began to play. Truth 1. Tony Stark was responsible for the Skrull invasion of Earth. His arrogance, his recklessness, his refusal to listen to warnings, all of it documented, all of it hidden. Truth 2. He drugged Wanda Maximoff. Manipulated her powers. Used her as a weapon without her knowledge or consent. Truth 3. He sabotaged Parker Industries. Undermined Peter Parker at every turn, stole from him, lied to him, all while smiling to his face. Truth 4. He worked with Hydra. With anti-mutant organizations. He sold weapons to both sides of every war, profiting from chaos. Truth 5. He knew about Otto Octavius's mind swap. He knew Peter was trapped in a dying body. He said nothing, because Peter Parker being a hero made Tony look bad. Truth 6. Clint Barton lied about the Phoenix event. The footage showed Spider-Man fighting two Phoenix-enhanced mutants simultaneously, holding them off, saving lives, while Barton hid in a bunker and claimed credit afterward. Truth 7. The tapes of Barton raping underage girls against their will. His face. His voice. His hands. Unmistakable. Indisputable. Truth 8. Cyclops and his faction kidnapped mutant children. Murdered their parents. Indoctrinated them into a cult of violence. Truth 9. Professor X knew. He did nothing. Truth 10. The Illuminati existed. They made decisions for the entire world without anyone's consent. They decided who lived and who died. They decided entire planets' fates over wine and cheese. The broadcast lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, New York was silent. Then the riots began. The so-called Earth's mightiest heroes were licking their wounds like dogs. The common room was a mess. Broken furniture. Bloodstains on the carpet. Tony sat in the corner, his armor in pieces around him, a bruise flowering across his jaw where Carol had punched him. Tony, muttering, "How did we lose to those guys?" Clint, nursing a broken arm, "Where's that bug? He should have cleaned up this mess. I bet he ran away like a chicken." Hank Pym, "We don't need that insect." Wonder Man, Here. Rhodey, quietly, "Tony, maybe you should." Tony, "Don't." Bucky, "He's right. We don't need him. Never did." Namor, "The surface dwellers and they're pathetic." A fist connected with Namor's jaw. Carol Danvers stood over him, her eyes blazing, her fist still extended. Behind her, Susan Storm, Jessica Drew, Wanda Maximoff, She-Hulk, Mockingbird, Natasha Romanoff, and Janet Van Dyne formed a wall of furious women. Carol, "Shut up." The room went silent. Carol, "I regret ever going out with you. We're done." She turned to Clint. Carol, "And you knew. You knew about Superior. You knew Peter wasn't himself. And you said nothing." Clint opened his mouth, closed it. Jessica Drew, to Clint, her voice shaking with rage, "It's you who ran away like a fucking chicken. You're not him. And because of you, I lost the real father of my child, you fucking asshole." Susan Storm, quietly, tears in her eyes, "I regret everything I said to him." She-Hulk, to the men, "I should have put you in jail for what you did." Natasha, cold as ice, "I should have just killed you." Mockingbird, "I regret every word I said to him. This is your fault." Janet, to Hank, "I should have divorced you and killed you." The men sat in stunned silence. Thor, who had been off-world during the Superior incident, watched with growing confusion. Thor, "The problem is, where is he?" The room got very quiet. Wanda, softly, "Do you think he's not dead?" Julia, from the corner, her voice hollow, "That's impossible. If he dies, the universe is destroyed." Doctor Strange, emerging from the shadows, "She's right. Without him, we all die." The Avengers stared at him. Captain America, slowly, "What do you mean, without him?" Strange, "Peter Parker is not just a hero. He is the anchor of this reality. The center of the web of life and destiny. If he truly died," he shook his head, "we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't exist." Steve, turning to Miles, "Can you locate him?" Miles sat in the corner, his face buried in his hands. He looked up, and the expression on his face was one of pure, gut-wrenching regret. "Miles, I don't know. Because that asshole," he pointed at Tony, "made me cut off my connection to Peter. And now I regret everything." Gwen, coldly, "You should." Kamala, to Miles, "I'm glad I never went out with you." Anya, "Yeah, I hope the Web Weaver sends you back with no memory of ever being Spider-Man. Because you don't deserve it. And Julia doesn't deserve to be Madam Web." Kane, "I'd rather have Cassandra or anyone else as Madam Web." Jessica Drew, to Julia, "And you knew about Superior. You knew and said nothing. You could have warned us. We could have helped him. But you just ignored it." Julia had no answer. The mansion was a mess. Parents had come in droves, pulling their children out of the school, their faces twisted with fury and betrayal. The hallways that had once echoed with laughter and training now echoed with accusations. Parent, screaming, "You kidnapped my daughter." Parent 2, "You murdered their parents." Parent 3, "You're monsters, all of you." Logan stood in the doorway of what had once been the danger room, watching the exodus. His claws ached. His heart ached more. "Logan, this is a mess." Professor X, from his chair, his voice tired, "It's not over yet, Logan. Logan, you don't get to talk. You and your little club, you're the ones who made this mess." He turned, rage in his eyes. "I regret ever joining you." Professor X, quietly, "I regret everything I did. I should have stopped them. But I didn't." Cyclops, scoffing from across the room, "We don't need that insect. We're superior to those." He didn't finish the sentence. Emma Frost lifted him with her telekinesis, her face white with fury. Behind her, Jean Grey's eyes blazed with phoenix fire, not the controlled flame of a warrior, but the raw, wild fury of a woman who had lost everything. "Emma, shut up, you fucker. I should have cut your nuts off until you couldn't sire a child." Jean, "Because of you, I lost the real father of Rachel." The room went dead silent. Jean, Her voice breaking, "It's not you, Scott. It was never you." She threw the genetic tests onto the table. Everyone stared. Rachel Summers was Peter Parker's daughter. The Cuckoos, all 5 of them, were also Peter Parker's daughters. Logan, stunned. "What?" Emma, tears in her eyes. "Beast found it. Years ago. He kept it secret. Kept it hidden." Jean, "You almost killed them, Scott. You almost killed your own, not your Peter's. You almost killed Peter's daughters." Cyclops's face went pale. Then red. Then purple. "Cyclops, that's impossible. I won't believe it." He lunged at the Cuckoos. Logan knocked him out with one punch. Logan, to the professor, "Where's Laura? Where's Hope?" "Professor X, Laura has locked herself in her room. So has Hope." Cable, from the doorway, his voice hollow, "After what happened, Hope regrets everything. She almost killed Cyclops." His jaw tightened. "I wanted to let her." Laura Kinney sat in her room, her claws extended, staring at the wall. She hadn't spoken in days. Every time someone mentioned Peter's name, she twitched. Every time someone badmouthed him, she nearly killed them. She had loved him. And she had let him down. Hope Summers sat in her own room, doing the same. The house in Forest Hills was dark. May Parker lay in her bed, the same bed she had shared with Ben for decades, staring at a photo album. Pictures of Peter as a child. As a teenager. As a young man. Pictures of birthdays and Christmases and quiet moments that now felt like torture. May, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She had turned on him. When the truth came out about Superior, when the world told her that her nephew had been replaced by a monster, she had believed them. She hadn't asked Peter for his side. Hadn't given him a chance to explain. She had just stopped answering his calls. May, clutching a photo to her chest, "My boy. My sweet boy. I'm so sorry." Teresa Parker, Peter's half-sister, the woman who had once been known as the Spy, Mayhem, sat in the living room. The television was off. The lights were off. She sat in darkness, an encrypted communicator in her hand. She had been hiding, communicating with the survivors of S.H.I.E.L.D., the few who hadn't turned on Peter, the few who had seen the truth. Teresa, quietly, "I'm sorry, Peter." She pressed her face against her hands. "Teresa, I should have been there. I should have protected you." The kitchen was worse. Crime ran openly in the streets now. Villains who had once skulked in shadows now walked in daylight, taking whatever they wanted, killing whoever resisted. The police had surrendered. The heroes had fled. Daredevil crouched in a church basement, listening to the city burn. Daredevil, quietly, "This is bad." Luke Cage, "Tell me about it." Iron Fist, looking at Daredevil, "It's your fault, you know." Daredevil's head snapped up. Iron Fist, you could sense he was different. That night, when he fought, you knew something was wrong. But you ignored it. Punisher, loading his guns, "He's right. Even I could tell something was off, and I don't even like the kid. But you called yourself his friend." Daredevil had no answer. Maria Hill sat on a park bench, staring at nothing. S.H.I.E.L.D. was gone. Not wounded, gone. The helicarriers had been destroyed. The Triskelion had been overrun. Her agents had scattered, deserted, or died. It was her fault. She had known about Superior. Had known Peter was trapped in his own body. Had done nothing, because exposing Otto Octavius would have meant admitting that S.H.I.E.L.D. had failed to notice a mind swap in one of the most important heroes on Earth. So she'd kept quiet, hoped the problem would solve itself. It had. Peter had left. And now she had nothing. No job. No home. No allies. Just the cold and the silence and the weight of everything she'd lost. Hill, to no one, "I'm sorry." The wind didn't answer. Chapter 5, Collision. The Illuminati had not met in years. Not since the last catastrophe they'd failed to prevent. Not since the lies had piled so high that even they couldn't ignore the rot beneath. But now, with the world burning, with their reputations in ashes, with the people they'd sworn to protect spitting on their names in the streets, they gathered again. The room was dark, subterranean, somewhere beneath the ruins of what had once been the Baxter Building. Around the table, Tony Stark, suitless for once, dark circles under his eyes. Reed Richards, his lab coat stained with something that might have been blood. Hank Pym, twitching, muttering to himself. Black Bolt, silent as always, his presence a threat. Professor Charles Xavier, his wheelchair parked at the end of the table. And Namor, brooding, angry, already planning his betrayal. Reed, studying the holographic displays. The dimensional barriers are weakening. I've detected fluctuations, irregularities in the fabric of reality itself. Tony, you're going to have to be more specific. Reed, something is destabilizing the boundary between our universe and another one. A parallel Earth, similar enough to be compatible, different enough to be distinct. Hank, excited, manic, compatible realities. Do you understand what that means? They're compatible, like puzzle pieces. Tony, Hank, focus. Hank, I am focused. More focused than I've been in years. He pulled up his own display, equations, schematics, something that looked almost like a door. We could merge them, stabilize both, use the structural integrity of one to reinforce the other. Charles, quietly, you're talking about forcing two universes together. Hank, I'm talking about saving two universes. Ours is collapsing. Theirs is stable, untouched. If we could merge them. Tony, you want to play God. Hank, I want to win. The table went quiet. Reed, the math works. Tony, the math working and it being the right thing to do are two different conversations. Namor, sneering, since when have any of us cared about the right thing? No one had an answer for that. Charles, finally, if we do this, if we force a merger, we need to be prepared for consequences. The people of the other universe won't welcome us. Tony, they don't have to welcome us. They just have to exist. He stood up. Tony, build the machine. Reed, Hank, you're on power stabilization. Charles, I need you ready to coordinate telepathic damage control. Black Bolt. Black Bolt said nothing. He didn't need to. Tony, just stand there and look intimidating. It took them 3 days. 3 days of sleepless work, of stolen technology and borrowed time, of equations that should have been impossible and power sources that shouldn't have existed. The machine rose in the heart of what had once been Avengers Tower, a monument to their arrogance, built on the bones of their failures. Reed, stepping back, it's ready. Tony, no test run. Reed, there's nothing to test. It either works or it doesn't. Hank, laughing, unhinged, or it kills us all. One of the three. Tony looked at the machine. It was beautiful, in a terrible way. Gleaming metal, pulsing lights, the hum of energies that no human was meant to control. Tony, activate it. Reed's hand hovered over the switch. Reed, Tony, are you sure this will work? Tony, yes. Reed, that's not an answer. Tony, it's the only one I have. He pressed the switch. For a moment, just a moment, everything was perfect. The machine hummed. The dimensional barriers thinned. Reality bent and folded like paper in skilled hands, and somewhere in the void between worlds, two universes began to drift toward each other. Then something went wrong. Hank, screaming, the frequencies are mismatched, the stabilization matrix is failing. Tony, fix it. Hank, I can't. The machine screamed. Not audibly, not in any way that sound could capture. It screamed in the language of broken physics, of collapsed probabilities, of realities forced together that were never meant to touch. Light exploded outward in every direction, not normal light, but something older, something hungry. The walls of Avengers Tower dissolved. The sky tore open. And two worlds began to merge. Peter felt it before he saw it. He was on patrol, solo, late night, the way he preferred, when the world around him shifted. The buildings didn't change. The streets didn't move. But something underneath everything, twisted. Like reality had taken a breath and forgotten how to exhale. Peter, to the watch, status report. Watch AI, warning. Detecting dimensional instability. Origin point unknown. Estimated severity, critical. Peter, critical how? Watch AI, two realities are merging. Permanently. Peter's blood went cold. Peter, which realities? Watch AI, this reality. And Earth -616. Asterisk. The name hit him like a physical blow. Peter. No. Watch AI, merge is irreversible. Completion estimated, 14 minutes. Peter was already moving. The next 14 minutes were hell. Buildings flickered, one moment the sleek towers of the Dispatch universe, the next the familiar grid of New York City as Peter remembered it. People screamed as their memories rewritten themselves, as two histories tried to occupy the same space, as the very fabric of their existence was torn apart and stitched back together in a new, impossible pattern. Dispatch comms, the director's voice, barely audible over the static, all units, we are experiencing a dimensional event of unprecedented magnitude. Prioritize civilian evacuation. Do not engage unknown entities unless absolutely necessary. Rosé, over comms, breathless, Peter, the plants are going crazy, I can't control them. Rosa, the link is unstable. Everyone's nervous systems are overlapping, I can't tell where I end and other people begin. Zed, screaming, there's too much energy, I can't. Peter, Zed, focus on my voice. Breathe with me. In, out, in, out. Zed, struggling, I'm trying. Peter, try harder. He landed on a rooftop that hadn't existed 5 minutes ago, a rooftop that belonged to a building that had been demolished in 616 years ago. Below him, two cities were becoming one. And then he saw them. The heroes of Earth-616. Not all of them, just the ones desperate enough to still be fighting. Captain America, his shield dented, his uniform torn. Thor, lightning crackling around him, but his eyes tired. Doctor Strange, hovering above the chaos, his hands weaving spells that barely contained the dimensional bleed. And behind them, the ones Peter had hoped never to see again. Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Professor X, the Illuminati. Peter, quietly, the word like poison, C-Squad found him within minutes. Rosé landed first, her vines retracting reluctantly, her eyes wide as she took in the chaos. Rosa followed, her link with Power Sponge and Frostbite crackling with unstable energy. Zed floated down like a dying star, his skin flickering between human and something else entirely. Jesse rappelled from a nearby building, his guns drawn. Tempo drummed a beat that seemed to push back against the dimensional instability. Rosé, Peter, what is this? Peter, a nightmare. Jesse, looking at the unfamiliar heroes below, who are they? Peter, people I used to know. Rosa, reading his tension through the link, people you used to trust. Peter, past tense. He turned to face his team, his real team, the ones who had never turned on him, the ones who had never judged him for sins he hadn't committed. Peter, here's how this works. We focus on civilians. We don't engage the 616 heroes unless they engage us first. And if they do engage us, his voice dropped, cold and sharp, we end it. Fast, clean, no mercy. Tempo, quietly, Peter, some of those people. Peter, are not my concern. Civilians first, everything else second. He launched himself off the rooftop before anyone could argue. The merged city was a war zone. Not between heroes and villains, that would have been too simple. Between everyone. 616 villains who had thought they'd won found themselves facing dispatch operatives with powers they'd never seen. Dispatch heroes who had thought their world was safe found themselves fighting enemies who had been terrorizing another universe for years. And in the middle of it all, Peter Parker moved like a ghost. He didn't fight like Spider-Man anymore. Spider-Man pulled his punches. Spider-Man quipped and joked and tried to save everyone, even his enemies. Pixel Weaver did none of those things. A Hydra agent raised a weapon. Peter glitched through the blast, appeared behind him, and put him down with a single, precise strike to the base of the skull. Not lethal, Peter didn't kill, but efficient. Brutal. The agent would wake up with a concussion and a permanent reminder of what happened when you pointed a gun at civilians. An AIM scientist tried to flee with stolen data. Peter hacked his suit remotely, locked his joints, and left him frozen in the middle of the street for dispatch containment to collect. One of the Sinister Six, Electro, sent a wave of electricity toward a crowd of panicking civilians. Peter intercepted it, his glitch aura absorbing the energy, redirecting it into the ground. He turned to face Electro, his mask's eyes flickering. Electro. Recognition dawning, you're that spider. The one who. Peter, I'm not Spider-Man anymore. He stepped forward. Electro fired everything he had, and Peter walked through it like it was nothing, his glitch aura tearing the electricity apart at the subatomic level. Peter, grabbing Electro by the throat, and you're done. He slammed Electro into the pavement hard enough to crack concrete. The villain went limp. Behind him, C-Squad was doing the same. Rosé's vines had overtaken an entire city block, trapping a dozen villains in a cage of thorns and fungal growth. Rosa had linked the nervous systems of the entire team, their reflexes synchronized, their movements perfect, each member of C-Squad fighting as if they could see through each other's eyes. Zed had become a supernova. Energy poured from him in waves, not destructive, controlled, pushing back the villains, creating space for civilians to escape. Power Sponge absorbed everything thrown at him, growing stronger with every hit. Frostbite froze momentum itself, stopping bullets in midair, freezing villains in place. Jess's adaptive bullets tracked targets around corners, through walls, across the chaos of the merged city. Tempo's rhythm kept them all moving, kept them all alive. In Mecha Man, Marcus Chen, the mechanic Peter had helped, fought alongside them, his sleek new armor moving like an extension of his body, taking down villains with cold, efficient precision. Not everyone from 616 had turned on Peter. Doctor Strange had stayed neutral, not defending Peter, but not condemning him either. He had watched from the shadows, waiting, knowing something the others didn't. Now he descended through the chaos, his cloak of levitation billowing, his eyes fixed on the flickering figure of Pixel Weaver. Strange. Landing nearby, Peter Parker. Peter didn't stop moving. He was pulling civilians from a collapsed building, his glitch aura letting him phase through debris that would have crushed anyone else. Peter. Strange. Strange. I know you're angry. Peter. Pulling a family free, angry doesn't begin to cover it. Strange. I never turned on you. Peter. You never helped me either. Strange had no response to that. Ben Reilly and Kane Parker, the clones, the brothers Peter had never really known, found him next. Ben looked haggard. His suit was torn, his face bruised. Kane was worse, his scarred features twisted with something that might have been guilt. Ben. Quietly, Peter. Peter looked up. For a moment, something flickered behind his mask, recognition, maybe. Old pain. Peter. Ben. Kane. Kane. Blunt as always, we never believed what they said about you. Peter. You never said anything either. Kane. I'm saying it now. Peter stared at them for a long moment. Then he nodded, once, and went back to work. Deadpool found him in the middle of a firefight. Wade Wilson was. Wade. Chatty. Obnoxious. Impossible to ignore. He bounced through the chaos, dual-wielding katanas and pistols, taking down villains with a kind of chaotic grace that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Deadpool. Holy crap, it's really you. The spider. The myth. The legend. The guy who. Peter. Cutting him off. Wade. Not now. Deadpool. But I have so many questions. Like, where did you get the new suit? Is it nanotech? It looks like nanotech. Tony Stark wishes he had nanotech like that. Did you? Peter. Grabbing Wade by the collar. Civilians. Now. Deadpool. Saluting. Sir. Yes, sir. He disappeared into the chaos, still talking. Moon Knight and Ghost Rider appeared from opposite ends of the same street. Moon Knight was silent, his white costume stark against the smoke and fire. He didn't speak, just nodded at Peter and began cutting through villains with crescent-shaped blades. Ghost Rider was less subtle. His hellfire chain whipped through the chaos, his flaming skull a beacon of judgment. He stopped in front of Peter, his engine roaring. Ghost Rider. His voice echoing with the weight of damnation. You carry guilt. Peter. Everyone carries guilt. Ghost Rider. Yours is not your own. He stared at Peter for a long moment, stared through him, his penance stare reaching into the depths of Peter's soul. Ghost Rider. Turning away. You are not the one who needs to burn. He rode off, leaving Peter alone. Part 9. Julius Reckoning. Julia Carpenter found him on the roof of a building that hadn't existed until an hour ago. Her powers were gone. She could feel the absence, the hollow space where the web of life and destiny had once lived. She was just a woman now. Just a woman who had made terrible choices and was finally being forced to face them. Julia. Peter. He didn't turn around. Julia. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you have every right to hate me. But I need you to know. Peter. Turning, his mask's eyes cold. Know what? That you're sorry. That you made a mistake. He stepped toward her. Julia flinched. Peter. You told the world I wasn't worthy of being Spider-Man. You said Miles was better. You hunted me, Julia. You and the others. You treated me like a threat, like a monster, like everything I'd ever done meant nothing. Julia, tears in her eyes, I was wrong. Peter, you were worse than wrong. You were cruel. He raised his hand. Julia braced herself. Peter, his voice cold, flat, final, shut your fucking mouth, whore. The slap came out of nowhere, fast, precise, humiliating. Julia's head snapped to the side. She staggered, one hand rising to her cheek. She looked at him with shock. Not because of the pain, the slap had been controlled, almost gentle compared to what he could have done. Because of the word, because of the contempt. Peter, you don't get to apologize. You don't get to make this right. You lost that chance when you chose your ego over my life. He turned away. Peter, stay out of my way, Julia. If I see you again, I won't be so gentle. He was gone before she could respond. The battle lasted hours. When it was over, when the villains had been contained, the civilians evacuated, the fires extinguished, the people of New York, both New Yorks, began to emerge from hiding. They looked at the heroes who had saved them. Not the Illuminati. Not the Avengers. Not the X-Men. The Dispatch heroes. C-Squad. Pixel Weaver. Civilian 1, pointing, that one, I've seen him before. He was helping people in Brooklyn. Before the merge. Civilian 2, he's the one who fixed my car. I never got his name. Civilian 3, he's not from here. He's from the other universe. Civilian 4, no, look at him. The way he moves. The way he fights. That's. Recognition dawned. Civilian 4, that's Peter Parker. The name spread through the crowd like wildfire. Civilian 5, Spider-Man. Civilian 6, he's alive. Civilian 7, he's not Spider-Man anymore. Did you see his suit? Did you see how he fights? He's something else now. Civilian 8, Pixel Weaver. I heard one of his teammates call him that. Civilian 9, Pixel Weaver. The crowd murmured the name. Pixel Weaver. The hero who had saved them. The hero who had never stopped saving them. The hero they had all turned their backs on. Civilian 10, loud, clear, thank you. The word echoed. Others took it up. Civilian 11, thank you. Civilian 12, we're sorry. Civilian 13, we should have believed in you. Peter stood at the edge of the rooftop, looking down at the crowd. His mosque's eyes flickered, unreadable, but something in his posture shifted. Rosé, appearing beside him, they're thanking you. Peter, I heard. Rosa, on his other side, does it mean anything? Peter was quiet for a long moment. Peter, it means they're paying attention now. Whether that's enough. He shook his head. I don't know. The merge was permanent. 2 universes, now one. 2 histories, now intertwined. 2 cities, now sharing the same streets, the same sky, the same uncertain future. The director of dispatch called an emergency meeting. Director, we are facing an unprecedented situation. We have a new population, new threats, and new heroes, many of whom we cannot trust. She looked directly at Peter. Director, but we also have new opportunities. This world, this merged world, can be better than the ones that came before. If we're smart, if we're careful, if we work together. Peter, quietly, and if we don't. Director, then we fail. And I don't intend to fail. That night, Peter sat on a rooftop. The same rooftop. A different one. It was hard to tell anymore. The city had changed. The sky had changed. Everything had changed. Rosa and Rosé sat with him. Close. Warm. Alive. Rosé, you called Julia a whore. Peter, I know. Rosa, carefully, that's not like you. Peter, you don't know what she did to me. Rosa, no, I don't. She took his hand. But I know you. And I know that wasn't you talking. That was the pain. Peter looked at their joined hands. Peter, maybe. Or maybe that's who I am now. Someone who hits people who can't hit back. Someone who uses cruel words because they're easy. Rosé, firmly, that's not who you are. Peter, how do you know? Rosé, because if it was, you wouldn't be asking the question. Peter had no answer for that. The merged world was unstable. Not physically, the dimensional energies had settled, the 2 realities locked together in an uneasy embrace. But politically, socially, the people of 616 knew the truth about their heroes now. The people of the Dispatch universe knew that their world had been invaded, whether intentionally or not. And in the middle of it all stood Peter Parker. Pixel Weaver. The hero who had been betrayed. The hero who had found a new family. The hero who had refused to let his past define his future. Peter, to the stars, I'm not cleaning up their mess. Rosa. What? Peter, the Illuminati. The Avengers. The X-Men. They broke their world. They can fix it themselves. Rosé, and if they can't, Peter, then it burns. And I'll be here to save whoever survives. He stood up. Peter, I'm not Spider-Man anymore. I'm not Peter Parker the hero, the martyr, the punching bag. I'm Pixel Weaver. And I have a team to lead. He looked at Rosa. At Rosé. Peter, let's go home. Chapter 6, The Reckoning. The merged world woke up confused. 2 weeks had passed since the dimensional collision, since the Illuminati's machine had torn a hole in reality and forced two universes together like mismatched puzzle pieces. The people of Earth 616 were still reeling from the revelations about their heroes. The people of the Dispatch universe were still trying to understand why their world now included a Manhattan they'd never seen before. But life, as it always did, continued. Dispatch had set up emergency shelters across the city. Food distribution centers. Medical tents staffed by heroes and volunteers from both realities. The director had mobilized every available operative, not just C Squad, but A and B as well, to help civilians navigate the chaos. And in the middle of it all, Pixel Weaver worked. Peter, to a family of 5, guiding them toward a shelter. Keep moving. The containment teams have cleared this block, but there are still active hotspots near the old Stark Tower. Father, are you really? Peter, I'm someone who's helping you. That's all that matters right now. He didn't have time for questions. Didn't have time for recognition or regret or any of the complicated emotions swirling through the merged streets. There were people to save. Lives to protect. A city, 2 cities, to rebuild. But the questions kept coming. Civilian, is it true you're from our universe? Civilian 2, did the Avengers really betray you? Civilian 3, are you going to punish them? Peter ignored them all. Rosé, falling into step beside him, her vines retracting after clearing a collapsed building. They're not going to stop asking. Peter, they'll stop when they realize I'm not answering. Rosa, linked with Power Sponge, coordinating rescue efforts 3 blocks away through the shared nervous connection, or when something else catches their attention. Peter, there's always something else. The Illuminati were hiding. Not well, there was nowhere to hide in a merged city where every civilian now knew their faces and their crimes. But they were trying. Tony Stark had retreated to a bunker beneath the ruins of Avengers Tower. Reed Richards had sealed himself in a lab that flickered between 616 technology and Dispatch Universe innovations. Hank Pym was muttering to himself in a corner, his sanity finally, completely gone. Professor X sat in his wheelchair, staring at nothing. Charles, quietly, we destroyed everything. Tony, not looking up, we saved everything. There's a difference. Charles, is there? Look around you, Tony. The people hate us. The other universe's heroes want us arrested. And Peter. Tony, flinch, don't. Charles, Peter is leading the team that's cleaning up our mess. He's saving people we abandoned. He's becoming everything we pretended to be. Tony, angry, I said don't. Charles, you need to hear it. We all do. Namor stood in the corner, arms crossed, saying nothing. Black Bolt sat in silence. Reed Richards tapped at a holographic display, his hands shaking. Reed, quietly, the dimensional merge is permanent. There's no way to reverse it. We've created a new reality. Tony, then we adapt. Reed, they won't let us adapt. The dispatch director has already filed formal charges with whatever passes for a government in this world. We're looking at. Tony, I don't care what we're looking at. We're the Illuminati. We've survived worse. Namor, finally speaking, have we? No one answered. Peter found them in a warehouse on the edge of the city. Not the Illuminati, the ones who had believed in him. The ones who had stayed silent not out of cowardice, but out of fear. Moon Knight stood in the shadows, his white costume stark against the dim light. Ghost Rider's Hellfire chain hung loose at his side, his flaming skull illuminating the room with an orange glow. Doctor Strange stood apart, his cloak of levitation floating gently around his shoulders. Ben Reilly and Kane Parker sat on crates, looking exhausted. Deadpool was, somewhere, Probably eating a chimichanga. Moon Knight, his voice echoing, multiple personalities bleeding through Peter. Peter, Mark, Jake, Steven, Moon Knight, a flicker of surprise, you know. Peter, I know a lot of things. Doctor Strange, stepping forward, we need to explain. What we did, what we didn't do. Peter, you didn't help me. Strange, we couldn't. Peter, Cold couldn't. Or wouldn't. Ben, standing, his voice raw, they threatened our families, Peter. Stark, Richards, the whole damn Illuminati. They said if any of us spoke up, if we told you the truth about Superior, if we warned anyone about what was happening, they'd make sure the people we loved paid the price. Peter's mask flickered. His glitch aura pulsed. Kane, blunt, I wanted to tell you. Every day, every time I saw you in the street, fighting alone, bleeding alone, I wanted to tell you. His scarred face twisted. But I have a daughter now. And I couldn't risk her. Peter, quiet, who threatened her. Kane, Stark, personally, showed up at my apartment, told me if I opened my mouth, he'd make sure my little girl never saw her father again. The room went very cold. Deadpool, from the corner, for once not joking, same. Except he threatened to erase Weasel from existence. And you know Weasel's annoying, but he's my friend, so. Peter, Wade, shut up. Deadpool, miming zipping his lips. Strange, his voice heavy, I tried to find a way around it. Magical protections, wards, contingencies. But Stark's resources are significant. And Reed's intellect is. Peter, was any of it real? Strange, what? Peter, your friendship, your support, any of it, or was I just, he stopped. Took a breath, was I just useful? Ben, crossing to him, putting a hand on his shoulder, it was real, Peter. All of it, we weren't strong enough to fight for it. Peter looked at Ben's hand. Then at Ben's face. Peter, I don't forgive you. Ben, I know. Peter, but I understand. He pulled away. Peter, the Illuminati will face consequences. Not from me, from the world they tried to control. But if any of them come near your families again, you call me. Kane, why would you help us? Peter, his mask's eyes flickering, because someone should have helped me. T'Challa found him on a rooftop. The Black Panther moved silently, even Peter's enhanced senses barely registered his approach. He stood at the edge of the building, looking out at the merged city, his expression unreadable behind his mask. T'Challa, Peter Parker. Peter, not turning around, Your Majesty. T'Challa, I am not here as a king. Peter, then why are you here? T'Challa removed his mask. His face was tired, older than Peter remembered, weighed down by losses Peter couldn't imagine. T'Challa, I believed in you. Peter finally turned. T'Challa, when the others turned against you, when they called you a threat, when they hunted you, I did not participate. I told them they were wrong. Peter, you didn't stop them either. T'Challa, no, I did not. He stepped closer. And that failure will haunt me for the rest of my life. Peter studied him. The spider sense, the part of him that had once detected lies and threats, was quiet. T'Challa meant what he said. Peter, why are you telling me this now? T'Challa, because you deserve to know that not everyone abandoned you. And because, he hesitated, because I need your help. Peter, skeptical, my help. T'Challa, Wakanda survived the merge. Our borders held, but we are surrounded by chaos, villains who see our technology as a prize, heroes who see our isolation as a threat. I cannot protect my people alone. Peter, you have an army. You have the Dora Milaje. You have. T'Challa, I have a king's resources. But I need a hero's perspective. And you, Peter Parker, are the only hero I trust. The words hung in the air. Peter, finally, I'm not a hero anymore. T'Challa, you are saving people even as we speak. You rebuilt this city with your own hands. You lead a team of misfits who would follow you into hell. He smiled, a small, sad smile. That is the definition of a hero. Peter, I'll think about it. T'Challa, that is all I ask. He placed his mask back on and disappeared into the shadows. The confrontation came 3 days later. Peter had been avoiding it, not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. He didn't have the energy for their apologies. Didn't have the patience for their tears. But the merged city was only so big, and eventually, paths crossed. He was walking through what had once been Central Park, now a strange hybrid of Dispatch's futuristic architecture and 616's natural landscape, when they found him. Julia Carpenter, Mockingbird, Janet Van Dyne, Natasha Romanoff, She-Hulk, Susan Storm, Storm of the X-Men, and Gwen Stacy. And behind them, hanging back, Anya Corazon and Miles Morales. Peter, stopping in his tracks. No. Julia, Peter, please. Peter, I said no. Janet, we just want to talk. Peter, you had years to talk. You chose to scream instead. Natasha, quiet, we made mistakes. Peter, laughing, a cold, bitter sound. Mistakes. Is that what we're calling it? You hunted me. You called me a threat. You told the world I was a monster. Gwen, stepping forward, tears in her eyes. Peter, I never stopped loving you. Peter, his voice dropping to ice. Don't. Gwen, please. Peter, I said don't. He stepped closer to her. She flinched. Peter, you left me. You believed them over me. You didn't even ask for my side, you just walked away. Gwen, crying, I was scared. Peter, so was I. Every day. For years. And when I needed you most, you weren't there. He turned to face all of them. Peter, you're all whores. Every single one of you. The word hit like a slap. Julia, shocked. Peter. Peter, shut your mouth, Julia. You sold me out for power. You told the world I wasn't worthy, you, who knew the truth about Superior, who knew I wasn't myself, and you said nothing. You let them destroy me. Janet, that's not fair. Peter, fair. He laughed again. You want to talk about fair? You cheated on me with Hank Pym. The same Hank Pym who hit you. The same Hank Pym who built the machine that destroyed 2 universes. Janet's face went pale. Peter, turning to Natasha, and you. You knew about the mind swap. You knew Otto was wearing my face. You did nothing. Natasha, quiet, I was following orders. Peter, whose orders? Stark's. The Illuminati's. You're supposed to be a hero, Natasha. Heroes don't follow orders that get innocent people killed. She-Hulk, stepping forward, angry, you don't get to talk to her like that. Peter moved faster than anyone could follow. He grabbed She-Hulk's arm, twisted it behind her back, and pulled. She screamed, a sound of pure, shocked pain. He punched her twice, controlled strikes, precise, designed to hurt but not maim. Peter, holding her by the neck, his Mosk's eyes blazing, don't make me repeat myself, slut. She-Hulk's eyes went wide with fear. Peter, you all had your chance. You threw me away like trash. So guess what? This is the new me. This is my life now. And you don't get to control it. He threw her to the ground. She landed hard, sobbing. Carol Danvers, stepping out from behind a tree. Peter. Peter, shut your bitch ass up. Carol froze. Peter, Miss Marvel, Miss Slut, whatever you want to be called. He stepped toward her. You left me to be in love with War Machine. So guess what? Go fuck yourself. He's a better boyfriend than I ever was, and I'm not coming back to any of you goddamn fucking sluts or whores again. Carol, tears in her eyes, I never meant. Peter, you never meant to hurt me. You never meant to abandon me. You never meant to make me feel like I was nothing. He was close enough now that she could see her reflection in his Mosk's flickering eyes. But you did. All of you did. So you can go fuck yourselves and get the fuck out of my way. This is the new me. Deal with it. He turned away from them. Miles, quietly, from behind Peter. Peter stopped. Miles, I'm sorry. Peter, not turning around, sorry doesn't fix it, Miles. Miles, I know. But I needed to say it. Peter, you're part of C-Squad now. The reformed villains. The ones trying to be better. He finally turned, looking at Miles, not with anger, but with something colder. That doesn't mean I forgive you. It means I'm giving you a chance to earn it. Miles, nodding, tears in his eyes, I'll take it. Peter, good. Now stay out of my way. He walked away. A crowd had gathered. Not a mob, something quieter. Something almost reverent. Civilians from both universes had seen the confrontation. Had heard Peter's words. Had watched as the heroes who had betrayed him tried, and failed, to apologize. Civilian, dispatch, is it true? They really abandoned him. Civilian, 616, worse. They hunted him. Civilian, dispatch, and now they want him back. Civilian 616. Now that he's powerful. Now that he's useful again. The disgust in the crowd was palpable. Someone threw a bottle. It shattered at Julia's feet. Voice in crowd. Whore. Another voice. Traitor. A child, no more than 10 years old, picked up a rock and threw it. It hit Gwen in the shoulder. She cried out. Child's mother, pulling her daughter back. Don't. They're not worth it. Child. They hurt Spider-Man. Mother, looking at Peter's retreating figure. I know, baby. I know. The crowd began to boo. The exes, the women who had once claimed to love Peter Parker, scattered, running, crying, their faces twisted with shame and fear. Peter didn't watch them go. He was already gone. Rosa's apartment felt like sanctuary. Peter sat on the couch, his head in his hands. The suit had retracted hours ago, leaving him in civilian clothes, jeans, a gray Henley, bare feet. He looked young, vulnerable, nothing like the hero who had faced down She-Hulk and walked away. Rosé, sitting beside him. You were harsh. Peter, I know. Rosa, on his other side. They deserved it. Peter, maybe, maybe not. He looked at his hands. I called them whores, sluts. I threw a woman to the ground and punched her. Rosé, she was going to hit you first. Peter, that doesn't make it right. Rosa, taking his hand. Peter, you've been holding this in for years. Years of betrayal, of abandonment, of watching people you loved turn into strangers. You were going to explode eventually. Peter, that doesn't make it right either. Rosé, quietly. No. But it makes it human. Peter looked at them, his girlfriends, his partners, his anchors in a world that had tried to drown him. Peter, I don't want to become like them. Rosa, you won't. Peter, how do you know? Rosé, kissing his cheek. Because you're asking the question. He leaned into her, let himself be held. Peter, tomorrow's going to be worse. Rosa, why? Peter, International Media Conference. The director's idea. She wants me to speak, to explain what happened, to tell the world about the Illuminati, about Superior, about all of it. Rosé, you don't have to. Peter, yes, I do. He sat up straight. If I don't, someone else will. And they'll get it wrong. They'll spin it. They'll make me into a victim or a villain or something I'm not. Rosa, what are you? Peter considered the question. Peter, I'm someone who survived. That's all. The Dispatch media team worked through the night. Peter sat in a chair while makeup artists tried to cover the circles under his eyes. Stylists argued over what he should wear. PR consultants wrote and rewrote statements, trying to find the right balance between honesty and strategy. Peter ignored most of it. He was thinking about Uncle Ben. About the lesson. With great power comes great responsibility. He'd spent so long believing that meant sacrificing himself. Giving everything. Accepting pain and betrayal as the price of doing good. But maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe responsibility meant knowing when to stop giving to people who would never give back. PR consultant, Mr. Parker. Are you listening? Peter, no. PR consultant, you need to be. This speech could determine how the world sees you for the rest of your life. Peter, I don't care how the world sees me. PR consultant, then why are you doing this? Peter stood up. Peter, because the truth matters. And someone needs to say it. He stood on the roof of Dispatch headquarters. The merged city sprawled below him, a patchwork of two realities, two histories, two futures colliding. Somewhere out there, the Illuminati were hiding. Somewhere out there, his exes were crying. Somewhere out there, people were still suffering. And tomorrow, he would stand in front of cameras and tell the world everything. Rosa, appearing behind him, can't sleep. Peter, never could. Rosé, joining them, nervous. Peter, no, just, tired. Rosa, of what? Peter, everything. Fighting, explaining, proving myself over and over again to people who've already made up their minds. Rosé, then stop. Peter, what? Rosé, stop trying to prove yourself. You're Pixel Weaver. You lead C Squad. You've saved more people in the past few months than most heroes save in a lifetime. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Peter looked at her. Rosé, tomorrow, when you speak, don't speak to convince them. Speak to tell the truth. And if they don't believe you, she shrugged. That's their problem. Rosa, nodding, she's right. You can't control how people react. You can only control what you say. Peter was quiet for a long moment. Peter, when did you two get so wise? Rosé, grinning, we've always been wise. You just weren't paying attention. Rosa, pulling him close, come on. You need rest. Peter, I don't. Rosa, Peter, rest. He let them lead him inside. The sun rose over the merged city. Peter stood in front of a mirror, looking at his reflection. Civilian clothes, simple, understated. No mask, no suit. Just Peter Parker, 20 years old, tired eyes, messy brown hair. Peter, to his reflection, this is your life now. He turned away from the mirror. Peter, make it count. Chapter 7, World Meeting. The United Nations building had survived the merge. Barely. Its walls were cracked, its windows shattered, its flagpoles bent at impossible angles. But the main hall remained standing, a testament to human stubbornness, if nothing else. Representatives from both universes filled the seats. Politicians, diplomats, leaders of nations that no longer existed in quite the same way they had before. And heroes. Not the ones who had caused the catastrophe. The ones who had tried to fix it. Dispatch operatives stood along the walls, their uniforms crisp, their expressions neutral. C Squad was there, Rosé, Rosa, Zed, Power Sponge, Frostbite, Jesse, Tempo. Mecha Man stood with them, his upgraded armor gleaming. And in the center of it all, an empty podium. Waiting. Ambassador 616 leaning to his neighbor, is it true? Is he really alive? Ambassador Dispatch, who? Ambassador 616 Spider-Man. Peter Parker. The one they said died in the explosion. Ambassador Dispatch quietly, he's not Spider-Man anymore. The doors at the back of the hall opened. Peter Parker walked into the United Nations building like a man walking to his own execution. No mask, no suit, just civilian clothes, dark jeans, a simple gray button-down, the leather jacket he'd found at that thrift store months ago. His brown hair was messy, unstyled. His eyes, those tired, haunted eyes, swept across the assembled delegates without emotion. Behind him walked Rosa and Rosé. Not as bodyguards, as witnesses. They had seen what he had survived. They would make sure the world understood. Peter, quietly, to no one, let's get this over with. He walked to the podium. The room went silent. Peter stood at the podium for a long moment. He didn't look at his notes, there were no notes. He didn't look at the teleprompter, it was dark. He looked at the people in front of him. The people who had believed the lies. The people who had turned their backs. The people who had never known the truth. Peter, his voice calm, measured, my name is Peter Parker. The name echoed through the hall. Peter, some of you know me as Spider-Man. That's not who I am anymore. Some of you know me as a threat, a monster, a villain who betrayed everything he claimed to stand for. That was never true. He paused. Peter, I'm here today to tell you the truth. About what happened to me. About what was done to me. About who is responsible for the catastrophe that merged our worlds. A murmur ran through the crowd. Peter, 2 years ago, my body was stolen from me. A man named Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus, used a machine to swap our minds. He took my face, my hands, my life, and for months, he wore my mask while I was trapped in a dying body, watching helplessly as he destroyed everything I had built. The murmurs grew louder. Peter, when I finally got my body back, I thought my friends would help me. I thought the people who claimed to love me would believe me when I told them what happened. His voice hardened. Peter, they didn't. He looked directly at the section of the hall where the remaining representatives of the Avengers sat. Peter, they hunted me instead. The Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the Defenders, the Web Warriors, every hero I had ever fought beside, ever bled beside, ever saved, they turned on me. They called me a threat. They told the world I was dangerous. They made me feel like a monster in my own skin. Ambassador 616 standing, Mr. Parker, if you're suggesting that. Peter, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what happened. Sit down. The ambassador sat. Peter, I lost everything. My friends, my family, my reputation, my company. Tony Stark stole Parker Industries right out from under me while I was still trying to prove I wasn't a villain. He gripped the edges of the podium. Peter, So I left. I walked away from Earth-616. I walked away from Spider-Man. I threw my suit in a dumpster and I didn't look back. Delegate 616, where did you go? Peter, I went to another universe. A universe where no one knew my name. A universe where I could start over. He looked at the dispatch delegates. Peter, I found dispatch. I found a team, C-Squad. Misfits. Oddballs. People who had been thrown away by their own worlds, just like me. Rosé, from the wall, quietly, damn right. Peter, I built a new identity. Pixel Weaver. I used the powers I'd been given, powers that came from the trauma of losing everything, to help people. Real people. Not politicians. Not diplomats. Just people who needed help. He turned back to the main assembly. Peter, and then the Illuminati destroyed everything. The name landed like a bomb. Peter, Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Professor Charles Xavier, Black Bolt, Namor. These are the people who decided they knew better than everyone else. Who made decisions for the entire world without anyone's consent. Who committed crimes, real crimes, and covered them up for years. He pulled a small device from his pocket. The watch. It projected a holographic display into the air, images, documents, video footage. Peter, this is the evidence. Every crime, every cover-up, every life they destroyed because they thought they were above the law. The hall watched in stunned silence as the evidence played. Peter, they built a machine. A machine designed to merge two universes, our universe and the dispatch universe, without asking anyone. Without warning anyone. Without considering the consequences. His voice rose. Peter, that machine malfunctioned. And because of their arrogance, because of their ego, because they refused to take responsibility for anything, two worlds were forced together. People died. Families were destroyed. Realities were torn apart and stitched back together wrong. He turned off the display. Peter, and now they want to apologize. Tony Stark stood up. His suit was gone. His confident smirk was gone. He looked old, broken, human. Tony, Peter, don't. Tony, I need to. Peter, you need to shut up and listen. The room went cold. Peter, you knew about Superior. You knew Otto had stolen my body. You knew I was trapped in a dying clone, suffocating, dying, while that monster wore my face. And you said nothing. Tony, quietly, I thought. Peter, you didn't think. You calculated. You decided that exposing the truth would make you look bad, so you let me suffer. You let me be hunted. You let me lose everything. He stepped out from behind the podium. Peter, you sabotaged Parker Industries. You stole from me. You lied to me. You smiled in my face while you were destroying my life behind my back. Tony, voice cracking, I was trying to protect. Peter, protect who? Yourself. Your reputation. Your ego. Tony had no answer. Peter, turning to Reed Richards, and you. Mr. Fantastic. The smartest man alive. You knew about the machine. You knew it was unstable. You activated it anyway. Reed. His voice small, the math worked. Peter, the math worked. He laughed, a cold, bitter sound. People are dead because your math worked. Two universes are permanently merged because your math worked. And you stand there talking about math. Reed looked away. Peter, turning to Hank Pym, Hank. You built the power core. You knew it was flawed. You knew it could fail. You didn't care. Hank, muttering to himself, I was trying to fix it. I was always trying to fix it. Peter, you can't fix this. Professor X, from his wheelchair, Peter, please. Peter, no, Charles. You don't get to, please, me. You knew about all of it. Every crime, every cover-up, every betrayal. And you sat in your mansion, in your fancy chair, and you did nothing. Charles, I was trying to protect Mutantkind. Peter, you were trying to protect yourself. The silence that followed was absolute. Peter returned to the podium. Peter, the Illuminati are responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. For the destruction of two universes. For the suffering of millions. He looked at the assembled delegates. Peter, they must face justice. Ambassador, dispatch, what kind of justice? Peter, that's not my decision. That's yours. But I'll tell you what I think. He leaned forward. Peter, they should be executed. The room erupted. Tony, pale, what? Reed, you can't be serious. Hank, screaming, no. Peter, calmly, or they can spend the rest of their lives in prison. I don't care which, but they cannot walk free. They cannot be allowed to hurt anyone ever again. Namor, standing, his trident in hand, you dare. Peter, his glitch aura flickering, I dare a lot of things, Namor. Sit down before I make you. Namor sat. Peter, to the assembly, the choice is yours. But make it fast, because the world is watching. And they're tired of waiting for justice. While the delegates debated, the world outside changed. Janet Van Dyne stood in her lawyer's office, staring at the divorce papers. Her hand shook as she signed them. Janet, to the lawyer, is this really happening? Lawyer, Hank Pym will be served within the hour. The divorce will be finalized by the end of the week. Janet signed. Janet, good riddance. Susan Storm sat in her empty apartment. The divorce papers were already signed. Reed's copy was on its way to whatever prison he'd end up in. Johnny, standing in the doorway, you okay? Susan, not looking up, no. Johnny, I'm sorry. Susan, you warned me. Years ago, you told me Reed was dangerous. You told me his ego would destroy everything. Johnny, I didn't want to be right. Susan, finally looking at him, neither did I. Ben Grimm sat in a bar, staring at a glass of whiskey. He wasn't drinking. He was thinking. Ben, to himself, I should have seen it. I should have stopped him. The bartender, a Dispatch Universe native, poured him another. Bartender, you couldn't have stopped him. No one could. Ben, I could have tried. Bartender, trying isn't the same as doing. Ben had no answer for that. Part 8, Tony's Reckoning. Tony Stark sat in his bunker, staring at a holographic display. Stock prices. Stark Industries stock had dropped 99%. The company was worthless. His fortune was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His friends had abandoned him. Tony, to himself, I had everything. The display flickered. A news broadcast appeared. Betty Brant's face filled the screen. Betty Brant, from the broadcast, in a historic decision, the United Nations has voted to sentence the members of the Illuminati to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Charles Xavier, Black Bolt, and Namor will be transported to a maximum security facility jointly operated by Dispatch and the newly formed Global Task Force, Artillery. Tony's hands shook. Betty Brant, Reed Richards and Susan Storm's divorce has been finalized. Janet Van Dyne has filed for divorce from Hank Pym. Stark Industries has been dissolved. Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters has been shut down, its students transferred to state-run facilities. She paused. Betty Brant. In other news, the hero known as Pixel Weaver, formerly Spider-Man, has been formally recognized by the United Nations as a legitimate hero and leader of Dispatch's C-Squad. When asked for comment, Mr. Parker said only, I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who didn't give up. Tony turned off the display. Tony, whispering, I'm sorry, Peter. The bunker was silent. The new task force was called Artillery. Not a hero team, a military organization. Designed to handle threats that no single hero or team could handle alone. Backed by the combined resources of both universes. Accountable to the United Nations. And its first commander was Robert Williams, Mecha Man. Marcus, standing in his new command center, looking at the vast array of screens. This is a lot. Director, beside him, you're the only one we trust. Marcus, I'm a mechanic. I build suits. I don't command armies. Director, you're a leader. You proved that during the merge. You kept people alive when everyone else was panicking. Marcus looked at the screens. At the faces of the men and women who would serve under him. Marcus, what about Peter? Director, what about him? Marcus, he should be leading this. Not me. Director, quietly, Peter doesn't want to lead armies. He wants to help people. One at a time, if necessary. That's why he's perfect for C-Squad. And that's why you're perfect for Artillery. Marcus nodded slowly. Marcus, then I guess I'd better not screw it up. Director, that's the spirit. Peter stood on the roof of Dispatch headquarters. The merged city sprawled below him, still healing, still rebuilding, but alive. The United Nations had made its decision. The Illuminati would spend the rest of their lives in prison. The Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all of them had been disbanded. Their members scattered, retired, or facing their own legal consequences. A new era had begun. Rosé, appearing beside him, you're brooding. Peter, I'm thinking. Rosa, on his other side, same thing. Peter, the world changed today. Rosé, the world's been changing for weeks. Today it just caught up. Peter was quiet for a moment. Peter, I sentenced them to death. Rosa, no, you didn't. The UN did. Peter, I pushed for it. Rosé, you pushed for justice. There's a difference. Peter looked at his hands. The hands that had built web shooters and saved lives and lost everything. The hands that had slapped Julia Carpenter and thrown She-Hulk to the ground. Peter, I don't know who I am anymore. Rosa, taking his hand, you're Peter Parker. Rosé, taking the other, you're Pixel Weaver. Rosa, you're our boyfriend. Rosé, and you're the reason this world still exists. Peter looked at them, at their faces, at the love in their eyes, love he hadn't asked for, love he didn't think he deserved, love that was real and present in his. Peter, what if I'm not enough? Rosa, enough for what? Peter, for this, for you, for the team, for the people who are counting on me. Rosé, kissing his cheek, then we'll be enough for all of us. That's what teams are for. The next morning, Peter woke up to sunlight and warmth. Rosa was curled against his left side, her dark hair spread across the pillow. Rosé had somehow migrated to his right, one arm thrown across his chest. They were both still asleep, peaceful, safe, here. Peter didn't move. He lay there, listening to them breathe, watching the light shift across the ceiling, feeling something that might have been hope. His old life was gone. His old identity was gone. The world he had known, the heroes he had trusted, the friends he had loved, the purpose that had defined him, all of it was ash. But something new had grown from the ashes. Peter, whispering, Pixel Weaver. The name still felt strange. Still felt borrowed. But maybe, just maybe, it could become his own. Rosé, mumbling, not opening her eyes, stopped thinking so loud. Peter, sorry. Rosa, smiling in her sleep, liar. Peter smiled. It felt strange, like pulling a muscle he'd forgotten he had. But it felt good. He closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New threats. New reasons to be afraid. But today, he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Chapter 8, The Weight of Tomorrow. The merged world had learned to breathe. Not easily, not without scars, but the frantic, gasping panic of the first weeks had faded into something resembling normalcy. Buildings had been rebuilt. Streets had been renamed. Children who had grown up in two different realities now sat in the same classrooms, learning the same history, preparing for a future that none of them could predict. Dispatch had become the primary hero organization in the new world. Not by conquest, by competence. While the Avengers had crumbled and the X-Men had scattered, Dispatch had been there. Every day, every disaster, every time someone needed help, Dispatch answered. And at the center of it all, Pixel Weaver. Peter Parker stood on a rooftop, a different rooftop, a new one, part of a building that hadn't existed before the merge, and watched the sun rise over a city that was finally, slowly, beginning to heal. Watch AI, current time, 6:14. Temperature, 58 degrees Fahrenheit. No active threats within a 5-kilometer radius. Asterisk. Peter, tell me something I don't know. Watch AI, Rosa and Rosé are both still asleep. They requested that you wake them at 7 o'clock. Peter, smiling slightly, noted. 6 months. It felt like a lifetime. It felt like no time at all. C-Squad had changed. Not the people, the dynamics. The trust. Peter had stopped flinching when Rosa linked his nervous system to the team. Had stopped second-guessing Rosé's battlefield decisions. Had stopped expecting Jesse to betray him every time they went into the field. Jesse, over comms, 6 weeks ago, I was wrong about you. Peter, surprised, about what? Jesse, about enhanced heroes. About you. You're not like the others. Peter, what am I like? Jesse, a long pause, you're like someone who's been through hell and decided to bring people back with him instead of staying there. Peter hadn't known how to respond to that. He'd just nodded and moved on. But he'd remembered. Zed had grown. The kid, 19, still young, still dangerous, had learned to control his energy. Not perfectly. Not completely. But enough. He could walk through a crowded street without flickering. Could eat a meal without accidentally shorting out the lights. Zed. Last week, during training, I'm not scared anymore. Peter. Of what? Zed. Myself. Peter had clapped him on the shoulder. It was the closest thing to a hug he'd given anyone outside Rosa and Rosé. Peter. Good. That's when the real work begins. Power Sponge had found a hobby. Sculpture. He made massive, blocky figures out of scrap metal, abstract shapes that didn't look like much at first, but somehow captured something essential about the people they represented. He'd made one of Peter. A towering figure, arms outstretched, glitching at the edges. Power Sponge. Simple, honest, you saved people. I wanted to remember. Peter. Looking at the sculpture, it's beautiful. Power Sponge. It's you. Frostbite had become the team's anchor. Not just in combat, emotionally. When Peter spiraled, and he still spiraled, still woke up gasping from nightmares about Otto's hands wearing his face, Frostbite was there. Calm, steady, unmoving. Frostbite. The past doesn't have to define you. Peter. Everyone keeps saying that. Frostbite. Because it's true. Peter. That doesn't make it easier to believe. Frostbite. No. But believing is a choice. Not a feeling. Tempo had become Peter's unexpected friend. Not a partner, not like Rosa and Rosé. Something simpler. Someone who could make Peter laugh when he didn't want to laugh, who could break the tension with a well-timed beat or a stupid joke. Tempo. Yesterday, after a rough mission, you know what your problem is. Peter. I have many problems. You'll have to be specific. Tempo. You don't dance. Peter. What? Tempo. You heard me. You don't dance. Music makes you think instead of feel. You need to let go. Peter. I don't let go. That's how people die. Tempo. Grinning. That's what I'm saying. It's a problem. The message came at 9:47. Not through the watch, through a physical envelope, hand-delivered to Peter's house by a courier in formal attire. The paper was thick. The handwriting was elegant. The seal was unmistakable. Peter. Staring at the letter. You've got to be kidding me. Rosé. Looking over his shoulder. What is it? Peter. An invitation. From the United Nations. Rosa. Taking the letter, reading. They want you to speak at the Global Unity Summit. Keynote address. Peter. I'm not a speaker. I'm a Rosé hero. Peter. I was going to say, guy who hits people. Rosa. Reading further. They're offering a medal. The highest civilian honor in the merged world. Peter. I don't want a medal. Rosé. Then don't accept it. But you should speak. Peter looked at her. Rosé. The world needs to hear from you. Not Pixel Weaver. You. Peter Parker. The person who survived and built something new. Peter. What would I even say? Rosa. Handing him the letter. I don't know. But you've got 3 weeks to figure it out. The nightmares came back that night. Peter stood in the ruins of his old life, the apartment in Queens, the one he'd left behind. The walls were cracked. The windows were dark. And in the center of the room, staring at him with his own face, was Otto Octavius. Otto. Smiling. You think you've escaped me. Peter. His voice tight. You're dead. Otto. Am I? Or am I just waiting? The dream shifted. He was in Otto's body, the failing clone body, the one that had been dying while Otto wore his face. He could feel his organs shutting down. Could feel his lungs filling with fluid. Could feel the suffocating terror of being trapped in a body that wasn't his, watching a monster destroy everything he loved. Peter. Screaming. Wake up. He woke up in his own bed, gasping, covered in sweat. Rosa was already awake. Her hand was on his chest, her eyes calm, her breathing steady. Rosa. You're here. You're safe. It wasn't real. Peter. Shaking. It felt real. Rosé. Waking, reaching for him. Nightmares always do. They held him until the shaking stopped. Part 5. The Memories. The next morning, Peter sat alone in his living room. The watch was silent. The city was quiet. And for the first time in months, Peter let himself remember. Uncle Ben's body in the alley. The gun in the shadows. The words, with great power comes great responsibility. Gwen's neck snapping. The sound, that terrible, wet sound, as she fell. The way her hair spread out on the pavement like a halo. Mary Jane walking away. Her face cold. Her eyes empty. I can't do this anymore, Peter. I can't wait for you to come home and wonder if you're going to be alive. The Avengers hunting him. Jessica Drew's fist connecting with his jaw. Susan Storm's force field slamming him into a wall. Stay away from my family, Parker. Miles turning his back. You're not my mentor anymore. You're a liability. Julia Carpenter on television. Peter Parker is no longer worthy of the title of Spider-Man. Tony Stark, smiling, as he signed the papers that transferred ownership of Parker Industries. Nothing personal, kid. It's just business. The portal. Star Convoy's wharf. The decision to walk away from everything. Peter pressed his palms against his eyes. Peter, whispering, I'm not that person anymore. But the memories didn't care. He went to the prison that afternoon. Not because he wanted to, because he needed to. Because there were things that had been left unsaid, and the weight of them was crushing him. The prison was a joint facility, part dispatch technology, part 616 engineering. Maximum security. Inescapable. The Illuminati were held in the deepest level, each in a separate cell designed specifically for their abilities. Tony Stark looked up when Peter entered. His cell was bare, a cot, a toilet, a small desk. No armor. No technology. No resources. Just a man in an orange jumpsuit, his beard overgrown, his eyes hollow. Tony. Quietly, Peter. Peter. Standing in the doorway, Tony. Tony. Come to gloat. Peter. No. Tony. Come to forgive me. Peter. No. Tony. Bitter. Then why are you here? Peter was quiet for a long moment. Peter. I don't know. I thought I would feel something. Closure. Satisfaction. Vindication. Tony. Do you? Peter. No. I just feel tired. He turned to leave. Tony. Wait. Peter stopped. Tony. His voice cracking. I really am sorry. For everything. For Superior. For Parker Industries. For the machine. For all of it. Peter. Not turning around. Sorry doesn't fix it, Tony. Tony. I know. Peter. But. He paused. I hear you. He walked away. Part 7. The Others. He visited Reed Richards next. Reed was in a containment cell, something about his stretching abilities requiring special restraints. He looked smaller than Peter remembered. Diminished. Reed. Peter. I've been calculating. Peter. Don't. Reed. The probability of dimensional destabilization. Peter. Cutting him off. Reed. Stop. You're in prison. You're never getting out. Your calculations don't matter anymore. Reed. Stunned. But science. Peter. Science without ethics is just destruction. You taught me that. Or you used to. He left Reed staring at the wall. Hank Pym was in a padded cell. His eyes were wild, his hands twitching, his mouth moving in a constant stream of muttering. Hank. Can't fix it, can't fix it, the particles are unstable, she left me, Janet left me, everyone left me. Peter. To the guard, is he like this all the time? Guard. Mostly. Sometimes he's worse. Peter. Is he getting help? Guard. We have psychiatrists. But, he's not receptive. Peter watched Hank for a moment. This was the man who had discovered Pym particles. Who had founded the Avengers. Who had hit his wife and destroyed his legacy and built the machine that broke 2 universes. Peter. Quietly, I hope you find peace, Hank. Hank didn't hear him. Professor X was in a cell that suppressed telepathy. He sat in his wheelchair, facing the wall, his shoulders hunched. Charles. Not turning around, I felt you approaching. Even with the suppression, I felt you. Peter. Charles. Charles. Are you here to tell me I was wrong? Peter. You know you were wrong. Charles. Turning, tears in his eyes, I was trying to protect Mutantkind. Peter. You were trying to protect yourself. Your school. Your legacy. Your ego. Charles had no response. Peter. The children you kidnapped. The parents you murdered. The lies you told. All of it, Charles. All of it was for nothing. Charles. Whispering, I know. Peter. Good. Then you understand why you're here. He left. Part 8. The Speech. 3 weeks later, Peter stood backstage at the United Nations. The Global Unity Summit was the largest gathering of world leaders in history. Representatives from every nation in both universes filled the main hall. Cameras broadcast to billions of people across the merged world. And Peter Parker, Pixel Weaver, was about to speak. Rosé. Adjusting his collar, you look like you're about to be sick. Peter. That's because I am. Rosa, squeezing his hand, you don't have to do this. Peter, yes, I do. He looked at them, his girlfriends, his anchors, his home. Peter, wish me luck. Rosé, kissing his cheek, you don't need luck. Rosa, kissing the other, you need to be honest. Peter stepped onto the stage. Part 9, The Truth. The applause was immediate. Not polite, genuine. People stood. People cheered. People cried. Peter stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Peter. His voice steady, thank you. The applause faded. Peter. My name is Peter Parker. Some of you know me as Pixel Weaver. Some of you remember me as Spider-Man. Some of you know me as a villain, a threat, a monster. He paused. Peter, none of those things are entirely true. And none of them are entirely false. He gripped the edges of the podium. Peter, I've made mistakes. I've lost people I loved. I've been betrayed by people I trusted. I've done things I'm not proud of. He looked out at the audience. Peter, but I've also saved people. I've rebuilt cities. I've led a team of misfits and oddballs and broken people who decided that being broken didn't mean being worthless. Dispatch delegate. In the audience, here. Peter, almost smiling, the world changed 6 months ago. 2 universes became one. Millions of people lost their homes, their families, their sense of reality. And in the chaos, some heroes rose. Some heroes fell. Some heroes were exposed as villains wearing masks. His voice hardened. Peter, the Illuminati are in prison where they belong. The Avengers have been disbanded. The X-Men are scattered. The old era is over. He leaned forward. Peter, but a new era has begun. An era where heroes are held accountable. Where power without responsibility is punished. Where the people, the real people, the ones who work, who struggle, who survive, are finally being heard. Ambassador Dispatch, what are you asking for, Mr. Parker? Peter, I'm not asking for anything. I'm not a politician. I'm not a diplomat. I'm just someone who refuses to give up. He looked directly at the camera. Peter, I'm asking everyone watching, every person in every nation in this merged world, to be better. To hold your leaders accountable. To demand transparency. To refuse to accept lies dressed up as protection. Journalist, from the press gallery, what about you, Mr. Parker? Should we hold you accountable? Peter, meeting her eyes, yes. Always. I'm not above the law. I'm not above criticism. I'm just a man trying to do the right thing in a world that makes it very, very hard. He stepped back from the podium. Peter, thank you. The applause was deafening. The world reacted. Some praised him. Some condemned him. Some analyzed his words for hidden meanings, for political agendas, for signs of the old Spider-Man lurking beneath the Pixel Weaver mask. Peter didn't care. He sat on the roof of Dispatch headquarters, his roof, the roof, with Rosa on one side and Rosé on the other, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Rosé, that was some speech. Peter, it was some words arranged in an order. Rosa, elbowing him, don't do that. Don't minimize it. You moved people today. Peter, I told the truth. That's all. Rosé, sometimes that's enough. They sat in silence for a while. Rosa, what happens now? Peter, what do you mean? Rosa, the world is changing. You're changing. We're changing. She looked at him. Where do we go from here? Peter considered the question. Peter, forward. Together. One day at a time. Rosé, smiling, that's very poetic. Peter, I have my moments. The message came at midnight. Not through the watch, through something older. Something deeper. A voice in his mind that he hadn't heard since the night he left Earth -616. Star Convoy, its form materializing on the rooftop, glowing with warm, ancient light. Peter Parker. Peter stood. Rosa and Rosé tensed beside him, but their instincts told them this being was not a threat. Peter, Star Convoy. Star Convoy, you have done well. You have built something new from the ashes of your old life. You have found love, purpose, and peace. Peter, why are you here? Star Convoy, to offer you a choice. The being extended its hand. In its palm, a small, pulsing light. Star Convoy, the dimensional merge was not your fault. But it has created instability. Ripples in the fabric of reality. Without someone to anchor these ripples, they will grow. Eventually, they will tear everything apart. Peter, his blood going cold, what are you saying? Star Convoy, I am saying that you are the only one who can fix it. Your reality hacking abilities, the glitch powers I gave you, are uniquely suited to stabilizing dimensional fractures. You could save the merged world from destruction. Rosé, stepping forward, what's the catch? Star Convoy, turning to her, the process will take time. Years. Decades. He will not age. He will not tire. But he will be distant. Separated from the physical world. A ghost in the machine, holding reality together with his will. Rosa, fierce, you're asking him to sacrifice himself. Star Convoy, I am offering him a choice. He can live his life, here, with you, in peace, and watch as the merged world slowly tears itself apart. Or he can save everyone, and lose everything. Peter stared at the pulsing light in Star Convoy's palm. Peter, how long do I have to decide? Star Convoy, the ripples are growing. You have 1 month. After that, the damage will be irreversible. The being faded. Peter stood alone on the rooftop, Rosa and Rosé holding him, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. Rosa, whispering, Peter. Peter, quietly, I know. Rosé, you don't have to do this. Peter, I know. Rosa, we can find another way. Peter, looking at the stars, maybe. But what if we can't? Part 12, the beginning of the end. Peter didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the roof, his legs dangling over the drop, and thought about everything. Uncle Ben's words, Gwen's smile, Mary Jane's laugh, the Avengers' betrayal, the Illuminati's arrogance, the moment he'd thrown his suit in the dumpster and walked away. And the moment he'd found Rosa and Rosé. The moment he'd become Pixel Weaver. The moment he'd realized that he could be happy, truly, genuinely happy, even after everything. Peter, to the stars, why does it always come down to this? The stars didn't answer. But Rosa did. She sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. Rosa, you're not doing this alone. Rosé, sitting on his other side, whatever you decide, we're with you. Peter, what if I decide to leave? Rosa, fierce, then we go with you. Peter, you can't. The process, Star Convoy said I'd be distant. Separated. You'd be waiting for someone who couldn't hold you, couldn't touch you, couldn't. Rosé, cutting him off, we don't care. Peter looked at her. Rosé, we've waited our whole lives to find someone like you. Someone who sees us, really sees us, and doesn't run away. We're not going to stop waiting just because you're saving the world. Rosa, taking his hand, you're not sacrificing yourself, Peter. You're sacrificing your comfort, your proximity, your ability to hold us. But you're not sacrificing us. Because we're not going anywhere. Tears welled in Peter's eyes. Peter, whispering, I don't deserve you. Rosa, that's not your decision to make. Rosé, kissing his cheek, that's ours. They sat together as the sun rose over the merged city, a city that might not survive without Peter's sacrifice, but a city that was worth saving nonetheless. Peter, 1 month. Rosa, 1 month. Rosé, we'll make it count. Chapter 9, Light of Hope. The Illuminati were executed at dawn. Peter didn't watch. He couldn't. Not because he disagreed with the sentence. He had been the one to demand justice, to push for accountability, to refuse to let the powerful walk free while the powerless suffered. But watching men die, even men who had destroyed worlds, even men who had ruined his life, was not something he needed to see. Rosé, sitting beside him on the rooftop, it's done. Peter, I know. Rosa, on his other side, how do you feel? Peter considered the question. Peter, empty. Rosé, is that bad? Peter, I don't know. I thought I would feel something. Relief, satisfaction, vengeance. He shook his head. But I just feel empty. Rosa, taking his hand, that's not emptiness, Peter. That's closure. The chapter is over. Now you have to figure out what comes next. He looked at their joined hands. Peter, what comes next is the same thing that's always come next. Helping people. Protecting the city. Leading C Squad. Rosé, gently, is that enough? Peter, it has to be. Later that day, Peter swung across the merged city. Not as Spider-Man, those days were long gone. As Pixel Weaver. The suit responded to his thoughts, his emotions, his intent. Neon cyan and magenta highlights pulsed against the Navy base, white armor plates shifting with every movement. Below him, the city moved. People walked the streets. Children played in parks. Vendors sold food from carts that smelled like two different worlds cooking side by side. The merge had been chaos, but from chaos, something new was growing. Peter, to the Watch status report. Watch AI, crime rates down 34% from pre-merge levels. Civilian satisfaction with dispatch at 78%. Public approval of Pixel Weaver at. Peter, I don't need the numbers. Watch AI, understood. Would you like me to track the ice cream vendor on 5th and Main? Your cortisol levels typically decrease after consuming frozen dairy products. Peter, almost smiling, you've been paying attention. Watch AI, that is my function. He landed in a small park, one of the new ones, built after the merge, designed to give people a place to breathe. Children ran across the grass. Parents sat on benches. And in the corner, an old man with a cart sold ice cream. Kid, tugging his mother's sleeve, Mommy, look. It's Pixel Weaver. Mother, looking up, startled, oh, honey, don't bother him. Peter walked to the ice cream cart. He bought a cone, vanilla, simple, the kind he'd eaten as a child in a universe that no longer existed. Then he turned and walked to the kid. Peter, kneeling down, what's your name? Kid, eyes wide, Tommy. Peter, hi, Tommy. Do you like ice cream? Tommy, nodding vigorously, yes. Peter, handing him the cone, then this is for you. Tommy's face lit up like the sun. He grabbed the cone and ran back to his mother, shouting about how Pixel Weaver had given him ice cream. Mother, to Peter, tears in her eyes, thank you. He's been so scared since the merge. Seeing you, knowing someone's out there protecting us. Peter, standing, that's what I'm here for. He walked away before she could say more. Peter found a bench at the edge of the park. It overlooked the skyline, the impossible skyline of a city that shouldn't exist, built from two worlds that had been forced together. Above, two moons hung in the sky. One from Earth-616. One from the Dispatch universe. They shouldn't have been able to coexist. The gravitational mathematics alone should have torn the planet apart. But they did. They hung there, side by side, silver and gold, reminders that sometimes impossible things became possible. Peter, to himself, two moons. Voice, behind him, takes some getting used to. Peter turned. An old man sat on the next bench over, gray-haired, wrinkled, his eyes bright with something that might have been wisdom or might have been simple contentment. Old man, I was born in the Dispatch universe. Lived there for 70 years. Never thought I'd see another sky. Peter, how are you handling the merge? Old man, shrugging, same as everyone else. One day at a time. He looked at Peter. You're him, aren't you? Pixel Weaver. Peter, quietly, that's what they call me. Old man, my grandson looks up to you. Says you're the reason he wants to be a hero when he grows up. Peter felt something twist in his chest. Peter, I'm not sure I'm a good role model. Old man, laughing, that's what all the good ones say. He stood up, brushing off his pants. Keep doing what you're doing, son. The world needs people like you. He walked away, leaving Peter alone with the two moons and his thoughts. Peter had changed. Not just his powers, his self. The man who had thrown his Spider-Man suit into a dumpster was not the same man who sat on this bench, watching two moons rise over a merged city. He was harder, colder, more willing to do what needed to be done. But he was also freer. The old Peter had carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Had believed, truly, deeply believed, that he was responsible for everyone, everything, everywhere. That if he didn't save them, no one would. The new Peter understood something different. You can't save everyone, but you can save someone. And sometimes, that's enough. Peter, to the Watch, pull up the file on the mutant hate groups. Watch AI, which specific organization? Peter, all of them. Cross-reference with Dispatch's most wanted list. Flag the ones operating within a 50-kilometer radius. Watch AI, processing. 27 individuals identified. 12 groups with active cells in the merged city. Peter, send the coordinates to C-Squad. We're going hunting. They moved like ghosts. Not like heroes, not like the old Avengers, with their grand entrances and dramatic speeches. Like predators. Silent. Efficient. Inevitable. The first group was operating out of a warehouse in what had once been Brooklyn. They were planning an attack on a mutant shelter, a place where displaced mutants from Earth 616 had found refuge after the X-Men collapsed. Peter didn't give them a chance to surrender. Peter, glitching through the wall. Evening, gentlemen. The men reached for their weapons. Peter was faster. He moved through them like a glitch in reality, appearing behind one, disabling him with a precise strike, phasing through another's bullet, appearing inside his guard, putting him down. The watch tracked heart rates, movement patterns, threat levels. Peter's body responded before he consciously decided. When it was over, all 12 men were unconscious. None of them would wake up with more than bruises and broken bones. But all of them would wake up afraid. Rosé, entering through a window, vines retracting. That was brutal. Peter, they were planning to kill children. Rosé, I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. She looked at the bodies. I'm saying you're different than you used to be. Peter, good. Rosa, appearing in the doorway, her link with power sponge crackling. Dispatch is sending a cleanup crew. We should go. Peter looked at the men one last time. Peter, leave a message. Rosa, what kind of message? Peter, his voice cold. Tell them Pixel Weaver is watching. And Pixel Weaver doesn't forgive. Word spread. The mutant hate groups, the ones who had terrorized Earth 616 for decades, who had killed and burned and destroyed with impunity, learned a new name. Pixel Weaver. Not Spider-Man. Spider-Man had pulled his punches. Spider-Man had believed in redemption, in second chances, in the fundamental goodness of people. Spider-Man had tried to save everyone, even his enemies. Pixel Weaver did none of those things. He didn't kill, not unless there was no other choice. But he came close. He left men broken, bleeding, terrified. He appeared in their safe houses like a ghost, dismantled their operations like a machine, and disappeared before they could even understand what had happened. Hate group leader, in a recorded call, his voice shaking. He's not human. He's not, he just appears. Bullets don't work on him. Walls don't stop him. He's like a glitch in reality. Subordinate, what do we do? Leader, we run. We hide. We pray he doesn't find us. Peter listened to the recording on his watch. Peter, to the watch, track his location. Watch AI, already done. Coordinates uploaded to C-Squad network. Peter, good. Let's finish this. The mutant shelter was called Sanctuary. It wasn't fancy, a converted school building, repurposed after the merge, with bars on the windows and guards at the doors. But it was safe. For the first time since the X-Men had fallen apart, displaced mutants had somewhere to go. The director of Sanctuary was a woman named Elena Vasquez, a mutant herself, her power a subtle empathic ability that let her calm even the most traumatized children. Elena, meeting Peter at the door. Pixel Weaver. We heard what you did. Taking down the pure humanity cell. Peter, they won't bother you again. Elena, some of the children want to thank you. Peter hesitated. Children. He wasn't good with children, had never been good with children, even when he'd been Spider-Man, even when he'd visited hospitals and schools and tried to be the hero they needed. Peter, I don't. Elena, gently, they need to see that someone is protecting them. That someone cares. Peter followed her inside. The children were young, most of them under 10. They sat in a circle on the floor, drawing pictures, playing with toys, trying to be normal in a world that had never been normal for them. Boy, looking up, eyes wide, are you really Pixel Weaver? Peter, kneeling down, I'm someone who wants to keep you safe. Boy, my mom says you used to be Spider-Man. Peter felt the old name like a weight. Peter, that was a long time ago. Girl, shyly, can you show us your glitch thing? Peter smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. He raised his hand. The nanotech responded. Neon cyan and magenta light pulsed around his fingers, and for a moment, he flickered, phasing in and out of reality, his form distorting like a corrupted video file. The children gasped. Then they cheered. Boy, that was so cool. Girl, do it again. Peter stood up. Peter, to Elena, they're good kids. Keep them safe. Elena, we will. Thank you, Peter. He paused at the door. Peter, you know my name. Elena, everyone knows your name. The question is whether they know you. She smiled. Elena, those children, they know. And they're grateful. Peter nodded and left. The news came 3 days later. Jonah Jameson, the man who had spent decades slandering Spider-Man, who had called him a menace, a threat, a villain, was found dead in his apartment. Suicide. The official statement said he had been struggling with depression, with the collapse of his career, with the revelation that everything he had believed about Spider-Man had been wrong. The unofficial statement, the one whispered in the streets, in the bars, in the dark corners of the merged city, was simpler. He couldn't live with what he'd done. Rosé, reading the news on her tablet. Jameson is dead. Peter didn't look up from his workbench. He was calibrating the nanotech, running diagnostics, preparing for the next mission. Peter, I heard. Rosa, watching him carefully, how do you feel about it? Peter, he was a man who made terrible choices. He hurt people, hurt me, for years. He never apologized, never took responsibility. He set down his tools. Peter, but I don't feel happy that he's dead. I don't feel anything at all. Rosé, is that bad? Peter, I don't know. Maybe it means I've moved on. Maybe it means I've become someone who doesn't let the past control him. Rosa, kissing his forehead, I think it means you're healing. Peter leaned into her touch. Peter, maybe. Not all the mutants had scattered. Some had survived, not just survived, but adapted. They had seen the corruption of the old X-Men, the lies of Professor X, the betrayal of everything the dream was supposed to represent. And they had decided to build something new. They came to Dispatch, not as supplicants, as equals. They offered their skills, their powers, their commitment to protecting the merged world. They asked only for a chance to prove themselves. The director had been skeptical. Peter had been more skeptical. Director, in the briefing, the mutants want to join Dispatch. Form their own squad. Operate under our oversight. Peter, and you're considering it. Director, I'm considering everything. The world has changed. We need to change with it. Peter, what about the crimes the X-Men committed? The children they kidnapped? The parents they murdered? Director, quietly, those X-Men are gone. Professor X is dead. Cyclops is in prison. The ones who remain, the ones who are asking to join us, they were children when those crimes happened. They didn't know. They couldn't have stopped it. Peter was silent for a long moment. Peter, I want to meet them. The meeting was held in a neutral conference room, Dispatch territory, but designed to feel less like an interrogation and more like a conversation. There were 7 of them. Young, scared, hopeful. Leader, a young woman with silver hair, her voice steady. My name is Laura. I used to be called X-23. I'm not that person anymore. Peter looked at her. Really looked. She reminded him of himself. The same haunted eyes. The same weight on her shoulders. The same desperate need to be something more than the weapon she'd been created to be. Peter, why do you want to join Dispatch? Laura, because the X-Men are dead. The dream is dead, but the people, the ones who need protecting, they're still alive. And someone needs to protect them. Peter, why not form your own team? Why come to us? Laura, meeting his eyes, because you're the only one who understands. You were betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you. You lost everything, and you still chose to be a hero. Peter felt the words hit something deep inside him. Peter, Dispatch isn't perfect. We make mistakes. We fail. People die. Laura, so did the X-Men. But at least you try to be better. Peter looked at the director. Peter, I recommend approval. The director nodded. Laura, tears in her eyes, thank you. Peter, standing, don't thank me. Prove me right. Part 10. The 2 moons. That night, Peter sat on the roof. The 2 moons hung in the sky, silver and gold, side by side, impossible but real. Below him, the merged city glittered with lights. Above him, the stars stretched into infinity. Peter, to the watch, play the recording. Watch AI, which recording? Peter, the one from the kid. At the ice cream cart. The watch played back the audio. Tommy's voice, high and happy, Pixel Weaver gave me ice cream. Peter closed his eyes. Peter, sometimes I forget why I do this. Watch AI, why do you do this? Peter, because someone has to. Because if I don't, who will? Watch AI, that is not an answer. Peter, opening his eyes, it's the only one I have. Peter smiled. Not the tight, controlled smile he used in briefings. Not the cold, bitter smile he used with enemies. A real smile. A small one, barely there, barely visible. But real. Peter, to himself, maybe there's hope after all. He stood up. The merged city sprawled below him, flawed, broken, struggling to heal. The old heroes were gone. The old systems were shattered. The old certainties had crumbled to dust. But something new was growing. Not perfect, not clean, not easy. But real. Peter, one day at a time. He stepped off the roof. The nanotech responded. The suit flowed over his body, liquid metal and white armor, neon cyan and magenta, the glitch aura flickering at the edges of reality. Pixel Weaver swung into the night. Below him, a child slept peacefully, dreaming of the hero who had given him ice cream. Below him, a mutant refugee looked at the two moons and felt, for the first time, like she might belong. Below him, a city, two cities, began to heal. Peter, to the wind, this is my life now. And for the first time in a very long time, that was enough. Chapter 10, Forgiveness. Peter sat at his kitchen table, staring at a blank piece of paper. The watch could have composed the message for him, perfect grammar, perfect syntax, perfectly calibrated emotional resonance. But this wasn't something the watch could do. This was something Peter had to do himself. With a pen, on paper, the old-fashioned way. Peter, to himself, how do you apologize for years of silence? He thought about Aunt May. About the woman who had raised him, who had loved him, who had believed in him even when the world called him a menace. And then he thought about how she had stopped answering his calls. How she had believed the lies about Superior. How she had let him drift away without reaching back. Peter, writing, Dear Aunt May. The words came slowly at first. Then faster. Then all at once, like a dam breaking. He wrote about the merge. About the Illuminati. About everything that had happened since he left Earth-616. He wrote about Rosa and Rosé, about C-Squad, about the new life he had built. And finally, he wrote about forgiveness. I don't blame you for believing them. They were your friends. They were the heroes you trusted. Why would you have believed a troubled kid over Tony Stark? But I need you to know, I never stopped loving you. And I never stopped wishing you were part of my life. If you want to see me, I'll be at Uncle Ben's grave on Sunday. No pressure. No expectations. Just a chance. He sealed the letter and addressed it to the house in Forest Hills. Sunday morning dawned gray and cold. Peter stood in front of Uncle Ben's grave, his hands in his jacket pockets, his breath misting in the air. The cemetery was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt sacred, felt important. He had placed flowers on the grave. Red roses. Uncle Ben's favorite. Peter, quietly, hey, Ben. It's been a while. The wind blew through the trees. Peter, a lot has happened since I was last here. I'm not Spider-Man anymore. I'm something else. Someone else. He knelt down, touching the headstone. Peter, I became angry for a while. Bitter. I hurt people who didn't deserve it, not physically, but with words. With cruelty. I called people names I never should have said. I let the pain turn me into someone I didn't recognize. His voice cracked. Peter, but I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to remember what you taught me. With great power comes great responsibility. I used to think that meant sacrificing everything, my happiness, my relationships, my identity. But maybe it means something else. He looked up at the gray sky. Peter, maybe it means knowing when to stop giving to people who will never give back. Maybe it means finding people who deserve what you have to offer. Maybe it means building something new instead of trying to repair something that's already burned to the ground. A warmth spread through his chest. Not from the watch. Not from his powers. Something older. Something deeper. Peter, whispering, I hope you're proud of me, Ben. I hope I'm the man you always believed I could be. For just a moment, just a heartbeat, he felt a presence beside him. A hand on his shoulder. A whisper of warmth. Then it was gone. Peter, tears in his eyes, I miss you. He stayed at the grave for a long time. Aunt May arrived an hour later. She walked slowly, older than Peter remembered, more fragile. Her hair had gone completely gray. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped her cane. But her eyes, those warm, loving eyes, were the same. May, stopping a few feet away, Peter. Peter, standing, Aunt May. They looked at each other across the space between them. The years of silence. The pain. The betrayal. The love that had never quite died. May, tears streaming down her face, I'm so sorry. Peter, his own voice breaking, I know. May, I should have believed you. I should have been there. I should have. Peter, crossing to her, pulling her into a hug, it's okay. May, sobbing into his chest, it's not okay. It's not, I abandoned you. My own nephew. The boy I raised. I stopped believing. Peter, holding her tight, I forgive you. She looked up at him, her eyes wide. May, how? After everything. Peter, because you're my aunt. Because you raised me. Because Uncle Ben would have wanted me to forgive you. He wiped a tear from her cheek. And because holding on to anger is exhausting. I know. I tried. May laughed, a wet, broken sound. May, you sound like him. Peter, who? May, Ben, you have his heart, his stubbornness, his refusal to give up on people. Peter smiled. Peter, I learned from the best. They sat together on a bench near the grave, watching the clouds drift across the gray sky. May told him about the house, how she'd kept his room exactly the way he'd left it, how she'd dusted his old science fair trophies every week, how she'd never stopped hoping he would come home. Peter told her about Dispatch. About C-Squad. About Rosa and Rosé. About the merged world and the two moons and the strange, beautiful life he had built from the ashes of his old one. May, taking his hand, I'm proud of you, Peter. Peter, I'm proud of me too. For the first time in a long time. The next few weeks were different. Peter had spent so long pushing people away, keeping them at arm's length, protecting himself from the pain of betrayal. But forgiveness had opened something in him. A door he'd thought was locked forever. He started spending time with the people who had believed in him. Deadpool, showing up at Peter's house unannounced. Pixel Weaver. Your favorite mercenary is here too. Peter, opening the door. Wade. It's 7 a.m. Deadpool. And, crime doesn't sleep. Neither do I. Neither should you. Let's go get tacos. Peter. Tacos. Deadpool. Tacos. Peter found himself smiling. Wade Wilson was annoying, loud, obnoxious, incapable of reading a room. But he was also loyal. He had believed in Peter when no one else did. He had risked the Illuminati's wrath to warn Peter about the mind swap. Peter, fine, tacos. Deadpool, pumping his fist, yes. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I can feel it. Peter, don't push it. They ate tacos at a hole-in-the-wall restaurant that had somehow survived the merge. Deadpool talked non-stop about everything and nothing. Peter listened, actually listened, not just tolerated, and found himself laughing at Wade's ridiculous stories. Deadpool, mid-bite, you know what your problem is. Peter, I have many problems. You'll have to be specific. Deadpool, you don't have enough fun. You're always so serious. Brooding. Angsty. It's like living in a young adult novel. Peter, I've had reasons to be serious. Deadpool, sobering, I know. But you're not that person anymore. You're Pixel Weaver. You've got 2 girlfriends who actually like you. Peter, they more than like me. Deadpool, whatever. You've got a team that trusts you. You've got a city that's finally starting to heal. You've got permission to be happy, Peter. You just have to take it. Peter looked at Wade, really looked at him. Behind the mask and the jokes and the chaos, there was something real. Something that cared. Peter, you're a good friend, Wade. Deadpool, pretending to be shocked, did you just call me a friend? Peter, don't make me regret it. Deadpool, grinning behind his mask, wouldn't dream of it. Moon Knight found him on a rooftop. Not the Dispatch roof, a different one, somewhere in the old 616 section of the city. Mark Spector sat on the edge, his white costume stark against the darkness. Moon Knight, you've been avoiding me. Peter, sitting down beside him, I've been avoiding everyone. Moon Knight, fair. They sat in silence for a while. Moon Knight, finally, I know what it's like to have voices in your head. To not be sure who's real and who's just noise. Peter, is that why you stayed? When everyone else left? Moon Knight, partially. Mostly because you never treated me like I was crazy. Peter, surprised what? Moon Knight, the others, the Avengers, the X-Men, they looked at me like I was a bomb waiting to go off. You looked at me like I was a person who happened to have some unusual circumstances. Peter, that's because you are. Moon Knight, almost smiling, see. That's why you're different. Ghost Rider appeared at midnight. His hellfire chain hung loose at his side. His flaming skull illuminated the alleyway. But when he spoke, his voice was almost gentle. Ghost Rider, you carry guilt. Peter, everyone carries guilt. Ghost Rider, yours is not your own. You carry the guilt of men who wronged you. You carry the guilt of a world that failed you. You carry the guilt of sins you did not commit. Peter, quietly, I know. Ghost Rider, then why do you continue to carry it? Peter thought about the question. Peter, because if I put it down, I'm afraid I won't know who I am anymore. Ghost Rider, his flames flickering, you are Peter Parker. You are Pixel Weaver. You are the man who refused to give up. The guilt is not who you are. It is only what you carry. He extended his hand. Ghost Rider, let me help you put it down. Peter looked at the burning hand. At the skull. At the demon who had seen the worst of humanity and somehow still chose to fight. Peter, taking his hand, okay. The penance stare, not the punishing version, the gentle one, washed over Peter. He felt the guilt lift. Not disappear, it would never completely disappear, but lighten. Like someone had finally taken some of the weight off his shoulders. Ghost Rider, releasing his hand, you are not beyond redemption. You never were. He rode off into the night. Peter stood alone in the alley. And for the first time in years, he felt like he could breathe. Robert Williams, Marcus Chen's civilian name, had built something extraordinary. Not Stark Industries. Not a rebrand. Something new. Nexus Cyber Industries was founded on principles Tony Stark had never understood: transparency, accountability, and a genuine desire to help people. Marcus, giving Peter a tour of the facility, were focusing on three things: quantum energy, clean, unlimited, accessible; solar technology that actually works; and cybernetic enhancements for people who need them. Peter, looking at the prototypes, this is incredible. Marcus, shrugging, I had a good teacher. Peter, I just fixed your suit. Marcus, you fixed my perspective. You showed me that technology isn't about ego. It's about helping people. They stopped in front of a display case. Inside, a sleek suit of armor gleamed under the lights. Marcus, that one's for you. If you want it. Peter, surprised, I already have a suit. Marcus, that's not a combat suit. That's a mission suit. This, he tapped the glass, this is for the fights you can't win with glitching. The ones where you need to be a symbol, not a ghost. Peter looked at the armor. It was beautiful, sleek, white and navy, with neon cyan and magenta accents that matched his glitch aura. Peter, why would you do this for me? Marcus, because you saved my life. Because you saved this city. Because you showed me what a real hero looks like. He clapped Peter on the shoulder. Marcus, take it, or don't, but know that it's yours, whenever you need it. Part 6, The Reformed. Dispatch had a rehabilitation program. Not prison, something more. A chance for villains to understand why they'd chosen the paths they had, to confront their trauma, to learn new ways of being. Peter had been skeptical at first. Some of these people had done terrible things. Had hurt innocent people. Had caused suffering that could never be undone. But the director had insisted. Director, if we don't give them a chance to change, they never will. And the cycle continues. Peter had agreed to try. He sat in a circle with a dozen former villains, men and women from both universes, their faces bearing the scars of their pasts. Some of them he had fought. Some of them he had put in prison. Some of them he had hated. Peter, to the group, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to listen. A woman raised her hand. Her name was Carla, former supervillain, former thief, former killer. Her power was cryokinesis, like frostbite, but she had used it to freeze banks instead of saving people. Carla, why should we trust you? Peter, you shouldn't. Trust is earned, not given. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to talk. Carla, and if we don't? Peter, then you don't. No one's forcing you to be here. A man spoke next. His name was Victor, not Von Doom, just Victor. A former enforcer for a crime syndicate. His power was superhuman strength. Victor, I killed people. Peter, I know. Victor, doesn't that bother you? Peter, quietly, yes. But I've learned that people can change. I've changed. Rosa changed. Rosé changed. Zed changed. Why can't you? Victor, tears in his eyes because I don't deserve to. Peter, that's not your decision to make. One by one, the former villains talked. About their childhoods. About the abuse they'd suffered. About the moments they'd chosen the wrong path and couldn't find their way back. About the fear, the anger, the hopelessness that had driven them to villainy. Peter listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't judge, didn't offer easy answers. He just listened. Carla, crying, my father used to lock me in the freezer. For hours, sometimes days. That's why I developed cryokinesis. As a defense mechanism, but I never learned to control it. I just used it to hurt people the way I'd been hurt. Peter crossed the circle and sat down beside her. Peter, that wasn't your fault. Carla, the things I did, the people I hurt, that was my fault. Peter, yes, it was. But you're here now. You're trying. That counts for something. He put his arm around her. Carla, surprised you're hugging me. Peter, you looked like you needed one. She broke down in his arms. One by one, the others came forward. Not to attack, to connect. To share their pain. To find something they'd been missing for years. Forgiveness. Victor, after telling his story, I don't expect you to forgive me. Peter, I already have. Victor, stunned, why? Peter, because holding on to anger was destroying me. And I refused to let the past control my future. The night before the choice, Peter gathered C Squad. Not for a mission, for a meal. Pizza, the kind he'd grown up with, the kind that tasted like home. They sat in the common room, laughing, arguing, being a family. Rosé, stealing a slice from Zed, mine now. Zed, protesting, hey. Rosé, you snooze, you lose. Rosa, linked with Power Sponge, he's not sleeping. He's eating. Power Sponge, mouth full, both. Jesse, rolling his eyes, you're all children. Tempo, drumming on the table, children who can kick your ass. Frostbite, calmly, language. Tempo, sorry, Mom. Peter watched them. These were his people, his family. The misfits and oddballs and broken souls who had chosen to stand beside him when everyone else had walked away. Peter, quietly, I'm going to miss this. The room went quiet. Rosé, setting down her pizza. Peter, tomorrow, I make the choice. Stabilize the dimensional ripples. Save the world. Become distant. Rosa, taking his hand, we'll be there. Peter, I know. But it won't be the same. Zed, his voice small, will we still be able to talk to you? Peter, I don't know. Maybe. In some way. Power Sponge, simply, then we'll wait. Jesse, uncomfortable, I'm not good at this. Feelings. Talking. But you're the best leader I've ever had. And I'm glad you're in my life. Tempo, grinning, but his eyes were wet, you're like the big brother I never had. Glitchy, sarcastic, emotionally constipated. But still. Frostbite, quietly, you taught us that being broken doesn't mean being worthless. That's something I'll carry with me forever. Peter looked at each of them. Peter, standing, I'm not gone yet. Tomorrow, I make the choice. Tonight, I'm here, with you. He raised a glass of soda. Peter, to C Squad. C Squad, in unison, to C Squad. Before they went inside, Peter made a promise. Not to Rosa or Rosé, to himself. Peter, to the stars, I'm not going to be the person I was. I'm not going to let fear control me. I'm not going to push people away because I'm afraid of getting hurt. He looked at the two moons. Peter, I'm going to be better. Every day. Not perfect, but better. The watch pulsed softly on his wrist. Watch AI, heart rate stable. Cortisol levels within normal range. Emotional state, content. Peter, did you just diagnose me as happy? Watch AI, that is not within my programming parameters. However, if I were capable of such observations, I would note that you appear improved. Peter, laughing, improved. I'll take it. He stood up, stretched, and walked back inside. Rosa and Rosé were waiting. Epilogue. The next generation. The merged world had changed. Not dramatically, not overnight. Slowly, like a tree growing from a seed planted in fertile soil. The two moons still hung in the sky, silver and gold, but no one looked up at them with fear anymore. They were simply there. Part of the landscape. Part of the new normal. The city had grown. New buildings stretched toward the sky, buildings that blended the best of both universes. Dispatch headquarters had expanded, becoming a sprawling campus that trained heroes from across the merged world. The United Nations had established permanent offices. Nexus Cyber Industries had become a global leader in clean energy and cybernetic enhancement. And Peter Parker, Pixel Weaver, had finally found peace. He stood on a rooftop, a different rooftop, one he'd claimed as his own years ago, and watched the sunrise. His hair had more gray in it now. The lines around his eyes had deepened. But his smile, his real smile, was brighter than it had ever been. Peter, to the watch status report. Watch AI, current time, 6:14. Temperature, 62 degrees Fahrenheit. No active threats within a 50-kilometer radius. Asterisk. Peter, any new recruits today? Watch AI, 12 candidates have been approved for preliminary training. Your presence has been requested at the orientation ceremony. Peter, I'll be there. He turned and walked back inside. The wedding had been small. Not because Peter didn't have friends, he had more friends now than he knew what to do with. Because he wanted it that way. Rosa and Rosé had agreed. A quiet ceremony. A few close friends. A lifetime of love compressed into a single afternoon. Rosé, walking down the aisle in a simple white dress, her purple hair braided with flowers, you're staring. Peter, his voice thick, you're beautiful. Rosa, on his other side, matching dress, matching smile, we both are. Peter, I'm the luckiest man alive. The ceremony had been short. The reception had been longer. Deadpool had cried, which was both touching and deeply unsettling. Marcus Chen had given a speech about responsibility and hope. The director had smiled, actually smiled, which no one had ever seen before. And at the end of the night, Peter Parker had taken his wives home and started the next chapter of his life. Philip Parker was born first. He had his mother Rosa's dark hair and his father's tired eyes, though the tiredness came from staying up too late reading science textbooks instead of sleeping. He was brilliant, curious, and stubborn. He asked questions that made his teachers uncomfortable and refused to accept answers that didn't make sense. Philip, age 7, holding up a circuit board he'd built himself. Dad, look. Peter, examining it, you rewired the power distribution. Philip, the original design was inefficient. I fixed it. Peter, proud, that's my boy. Petra Parker was born 2 years later. She had Rosé's wild spirit and Peter's sharp tongue. She could make grown men cry with a single glare and make her fathers melt with a single smile. Her powers manifested early, the glitch, the flicker, the ability to step between moments. Petra, age 5, phasing through a wall. Daddy, look what I can do. Peter, panicking. Petra, get back here. Petra, appearing behind him, giggling, you're slow. Rosé, laughing, she gets it from you. Peter, she gets the chaos from you. They grew up in a house full of love. Not perfect love, there were arguments, tears, moments of frustration. But real love, the kind that endured, the kind that showed up every day, even when it was hard. Peter, to his children, bedtime stories. When I was young, I thought being a hero meant never making mistakes. I thought it meant being perfect. Philip, listening intently, were you perfect? Peter, laughing, no. I was the opposite of perfect. I made so many mistakes. I hurt people I loved. I pushed people away because I was scared. Petra, curling up beside him, but you're not scared anymore. Peter, kissing her forehead, I'm still scared. I'm just not letting fear control me anymore. Peter became the head trainer for the next generation of dispatch heroes. Not because he wanted power, because he wanted to make sure the next generation didn't repeat the mistakes of the old one. He taught them about responsibility. About accountability. About the difference between power and strength. Peter, to a class of new recruits, power is easy. Anyone can be powerful. Strength, real strength, is knowing when not to use it. Recruit, what do you mean? Peter, I mean that pulling your punch is harder than throwing it. I mean that walking away from a fight you could win takes more courage than winning. I mean that being a hero isn't about beating people up, it's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. The recruits listened. They always listened. Other teachers joined him. Kane and Ben Reilly taught combat training, their rough edges softened by years of healing. Ghost Rider taught about consequences, about the weight of choices, the permanence of certain actions. Moon Knight taught about the mind, about the voices we carry, the shadows we hide from, the strength it takes to keep going. Doctor Strange taught about dimensions, about the fabric of reality, about the responsibilities that came with power over space and time. And Deadpool, standing in front of a class today, we're learning about the importance of humor in combat. Peter, watching from the back, Wade, this isn't an approved curriculum. Deadpool, everything is approved if you're charming enough. The students loved him. Peter couldn't decide if that was a good thing or a terrible one. Miles Morales had quit being Spider-Man. Not dramatically, not with fanfare. He had simply stopped, handed his suit to Cindy Moon, the new Madam Web, and walked away. Miles, to Peter, years ago, I was never meant to be him. I was meant to be me. And I don't know who that is yet. Peter, quietly, then go find out. Miles had moved to a small town in the countryside, far from the chaos of the city. He worked as a teacher. He helped kids who reminded him of himself, lost, confused, searching for something to believe in. He never put on the mask again. But sometimes, late at night, he looked up at the two moons and thought about the man who had saved him, not from villains, but from himself. Miles, to the stars, thank you, Peter. Cindy Moon became the new Madam Web. She was different from Julia Carpenter, warmer, wiser, less concerned with power and more concerned with purpose. She guided the spiders across the multiverse, not with commands but with suggestions. She let them make their own choices, find their own paths. Cindy, to a young spider person, the web doesn't control you. It supports you. Use it when you need it. Let it go when you don't. Spider person, what if I make a mistake? Cindy, smiling, then you learn. That's what mistakes are for. She visited Peter sometimes, sat on the rooftop with him, watched the two moons rise, talked about nothing and everything. Cindy, do you hate me? Peter, honest, no. Cindy, do you forgive me? Peter, I'm working on it. Cindy, that's more than I deserve. Peter, maybe. But forgiveness isn't about what people deserve. It's about what you need. Julia Carpenter died alone. Not in battle, not saving anyone. In a small apartment, on a cheap bed, with no one to hold her hand. The woman who had once held the web of life and destiny, who had judged Peter Parker unworthy, who had chosen power over compassion, she died as she had lived. Alone, afraid, forgotten. Peter, when he heard the news, I should feel something. Rosé, beside him, you don't. Peter, I feel sad. Not for her, for what she could have been. She had so much potential. So much power. She could have helped so many people. Rosa, she chose not to. Peter, that's what makes it tragic. He didn't visit her grave. He didn't need to. Julia Carpenter was already gone, had been gone long before her body gave out. Part 7, The Reunion. Aunt May died peacefully, in her sleep, surrounded by family. Peter held her hand as she took her last breath. He didn't cry, not then. He waited until later, when he was alone on the rooftop, and let the tears come. Peter, to the stars, tell Uncle Ben I said hi. The wind carried his words away. May Parker was buried next to her husband, in the cemetery where Peter had placed roses so many years ago. The funeral was small. May had never liked crowds. But the people who came were the ones who mattered. Rosa, Rosé, Philip and Petra, the C Squad, Marcus Chen and his family. The mutants from Sanctuary. The reformed villains Peter had helped save. And Peter, standing at the grave, you raised me. You loved me. You believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. He placed a rose on the headstone. Peter, I hope I made you proud. The next generation of Dispatch heroes gathered in the main courtyard. Philip Parker stood at the front of the group, his father's watch on his wrist, his mother's determination in his eyes. Beside him, Petra flickered in and out of reality, impatient as always. Behind them, dozens of young heroes, mutants, enhanced, baseline humans who had trained until they became something more. And in front of them, Peter Parker. Peter, his voice steady, you are the future of this world. Not because of your powers, because of your choices. He walked among them, meeting their eyes. Peter, you will face challenges I can't imagine. You will face enemies who want to destroy everything you love. You will face moments when giving up seems easier than fighting. He stopped in the center of the courtyard. Peter, In those moments, remember this, you are not alone. You have each other. You have dispatch. And you have the knowledge that what you're fighting for is worth fighting for. Philip. Quietly, Dad. Peter. Smiling, I'm not your dad right now. I'm your teacher. And my job is to make sure you're ready. He turned to face them all. Peter. Class dismissed. That night, Peter sat on the rooftop. The two moons hung in the sky, silver and gold, side by side. The city glittered below him. The stars stretched above him. And Peter Parker, Pixel Weaver, former Spider-Man, husband, father, teacher, felt something he had spent his whole life searching for. Contentment. Rosé, appearing beside him, you're brooding. Peter, I'm thinking. Rosa, on his other side, same thing. Peter, maybe, but I'm allowed to think. I'm old. Rosé, laughing, you're 35. Peter, that's ancient in hero years. They sat together, the three of them, watching the city sleep. Philip and Petra were inside, probably arguing about something, probably driving their babysitter crazy. The next generation was growing up, faster than Peter wanted, faster than he was ready for. But that was the point, wasn't it? Rosa, are you happy? Peter considered the question. Peter, I'm happy. Not every moment, but most of them. And the moments I'm not happy, I know they'll pass. Rosé, that's very wise. Peter, I've had a lot of time to think. Rosa, taking his hand, what are you thinking about now? Peter, about Uncle Ben. About the lesson he taught me. With great power comes great responsibility. Rosé, you've lived that lesson. Peter, I've tried. I've failed. I've gotten back up and tried again. He looked at the two moons. Peter, I think that's what he would have wanted. Not perfection. Just persistence. The story doesn't end here. Not really. There will be new villains. New challenges. New reasons to be afraid. Peter knows this, has always known this. The world doesn't stop turning just because one man finds peace. But that's okay. Because Peter isn't alone anymore. He has Rosa and Rosé. He has Philip and Petra. He has C-Squad, and Dispatch, and a world that finally, believes in him. He has hope. Peter, standing up, come on. The kids are probably trying to build a quantum reactor in the basement again. Rosé, again. Rosa, Philip built one last week. It almost worked. Peter, sighing, that's my boy. They walked inside together, leaving the two moons to watch over the city. And somewhere, in a place beyond places, in a realm where time had no meaning and space had no boundaries, Uncle Ben smiled. Ben, to no one, that's my boy. The end. And this is the end of this amazing epic crossover movie. Hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel to see more amazing content.